Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. You are now tuned in to the mystical Qabalah book study, where it's more than just words on a page. We're diving deeply in between the lines, getting at the spirit of the occult, the spirit of Qabalah, the spirit of magic, the essence of what we attain to understand ourselves and implement in our daily lives. If you're joining us tonight, I grant you a very warm welcome. Thank you for being here. And as long as you are paying attention consciously or even subconsciously, you will receive keys that will unlock doors that may have been blocking you for quite some time. Peace and greetings to all my favorite people here. Jay Baltail, peace and greetings. Zero, the hero, peace, peace. Ace in the place, good to see you. L, peace, peace. Fat Tony, this is knowledge you can't get in college. Peace, peace, my brother. 9 Volta, peace and greetings. Wraith 636, I hope you got your coffee ready. We're about to get into this. So this is a long chapter. I wonder if it's actually the longest chapter in the book. Anyways, we stopped about halfway through, and we are wrapping up the other half here. We were around verse 50, and we're going to pick it up around verse 49 and just continue through to the end. Sound good? Fabulous. Let me know, how's the audio? Are we coming through clear? I know nothing. Peace and greetings. Welcome aboard. Amun Ra Centro. Peace, peace. Audio good? You can hear me? Made sure I wasn't coming through the headphones this time. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. There's nothing but doo-doo in there, boy. Rest in peace, Brother Dick Gregory. Rest in peace. Man, we lost a lot of people on this journey. But, I mean, it's not really loss. I don't ever see it as a loss, right? It's not like they just cease to exist. They continue existing somewhere else. And their time with us has come to an end. Doo-doo in there, boy. Rest in peace. But anyways, the Chronicles of Sat Ra, peace and greetings. Veronica Archaga, peace and greetings. I love you, Veronica. I see that spider. Hope all is well with you. Al Dickey, that's my real name. Peace and greetings. Right, it's never a loss, but an upgrade. Saint Rakbar, right? Rest in peace. Willie James Huff, better known as Funky Chicken, as Allah Rakbar. Hello. Rest in peace, Brother Willie. Honey Bunny, peace, peace. It's been a minute. All right, let's get into this thing, shall we? Shall we? Verse 49. Oh yeah, let's get it cracking. 49. The key to this use, and what use? I think we have to go back one more. That's the downside of starting in the middle. Kind of have to refresh. Remember that the only satisfactory channel of evocation is the operator himself, right? And remember that we refer to these cosmic forces as intelligences, not because we believe that they're actual people in the stars communicating with us, but because it behooves our subconscious mind and the way that we operate to treat cosmic forces as if they are people or intelligences. But the true magus, practitioner, witch, sorcerer, whatever you want to call yourself, you understand that you're not actually talking to a person out there in another dimension. You are communicating with a cosmic force with raw energy. But the way that our minds are set up, it's best for us to communicate with them as if they are peoples, right? Remember that part? And hell, the same goes with plants, the same goes with ancestors, the same goes with anything that we're working with. Boom. It is for this reason that the esotericist personifies the subtler forces and calls them intelligences. He then proceeds to deal with them as if they were intelligent. And he finds that there is a subtle side of his own nature and consciousness which responds to them, and to which he fondly believes they respond. At any rate, whether the response is mutual or not, his powers of dealing with them are, by this means, greatly extended beyond those which he possesses, when he regards them is a fortuitous concourse of uncorrelated incidents, right? Synchronicities that happen in your favor, right? That's the end result of this dialogue between you and these cosmic forces. Y'all know what I mean. You understand that. You know that the demiurge isn't out to get you. You know that Baphomet isn't an actual goat sitting on a globe somewhere smiling at you. You know that. You know that there's not a woman named Lilith on the other side whispering in your ear. You know that. But because the subconscious mind and the astral plane itself is a symbolic apparatus, we utilize those images. That's how they're utilized. Peace Curve. Curve says, damn, he really don't got titties. You know? But in your imagination, he's got the biggest titties you've ever seen. Or not even the biggest, but the nicest. Quality over quantity, always. Tian Pomeroy, peace and greetings. Welcome, welcome from across the pond. Pork Hill, peace, peace. How did that drawing come out, by the way? How's the art coming? DP31, always good to see you pop up. Peace, peace. Quality over quantity. WT, peace and greetings. I need me a Baphomet. I don't have any Baphomet in here anywhere. I need to get one of those Baphomet statues. Can you believe all this time and I don't even have Baphomet or Baphomet? Excuse me, French. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's get to it. So what she was saying in verse 48 was, the best magical weapon is the magus himself, and all other contrivances are but a means to an end. The end being that exaltation and concentration of consciousness, which makes a magus of an ordinary man. It's that state of mind, right? And not even, and we're not talking about a mood. We're not talking about a mood. We're talking about a way of being, long term, not for an hour, but a way of living, right? Know ye not that ye are the temple of the living God? Said a great one. If we know how to use the symbolic furniture of this living temple, we have the keys of heaven in our hands. Jojo, peace and greetings. Kashiki, peace, peace. Dave All Hill says, but I have a picture of Jesus over my hearth. Oh yeah, definitely got pictures of Jesus. I got Jesus on my living room table. Light skin mixed Jesus. So everybody's happy. 49. The key to this use is given in the microscopic attributions of the tree, interpreting these in terms of function, right? So the key to this attainment of the Magus mode, right? The key to this is given in the microcosmic attributions. What's microcosmic mean, right? It's the difference, it's the opposite of macrocosmic. What's the microcosmic mean? The microcosmic attributions. We talk about it at the beginning of every chapter. Leo corresponds to the heart and the chest. Yesod refers to the genitals. Tifereth refers to the crown, excuse me. Kether refers to the crown of the head. What are these microcosmic attributions? The key to this use is given in the microcosmic attributions of the tree. Know ye not that ye are a living temple, a temple of the living God. Interpreting these in terms of function and function in terms of spiritual principles, we can unlock the door of the storehouse of force. The best and most complete manifestation of the power of God is through the energized enthusiasm of the trained and dedicated man. Trained and dedicated. Dedicated is great, but you got to have some type of disciplined process that you follow. Winging it might be good for the first year, but after that, that's not a good look. And what does it mean when she says this, interpreting these in terms of function? Like, for example, we could say Tifereth as the heart, the Leo aspect as the heart. Well, let's use correspondence. What does the heart do for the human body? Without the heart, there is no life. The heart distributes the lifeblood throughout the whole system. That's what Tifereth does. That's what the sun does. See the correspondence here? We got to relate one thing to the other. Sunshine Chick, always good to see you. Peace, peace, peace. Marcus Bethely, welcome from Instagram. I know you've seen you lurking on my page. I Know Nothing says energized enthusiasm is a term Crowley used for building up sexual energy. Interesting. So we'll have to read that again with that in mind. Jan Pomeroy says, I really appreciate these lives because this hermit year seems to be bringing the unhinged out in people, and doing the work keeps me well, man. Yeah, I understand. Sheesh. Sheesh. I get it. Trust me, I get it. All right, so this energized enthusiasm. Where was that at? Right here. All right, so the key to this use is given in the microcosmic attributions of the tree. Interpreting these in terms of function and function in terms of spiritual principles, we can unlock the door of the storehouse of force. The best and most complete manifestation of the power of God is through the energized enthusiasm of the trained and dedicated man. Very interesting. I know nothing. Very interesting. We would be wiser if we looked for the end result of a magical operation to come about through natural channels, rather than to expect an interference with the course of nature. An expectation that, in the very nature of things, is doomed to disappointment. Right? So, most of the names here are people that I'm familiar with. And I think that you all know this concept at least. The magic comes through natural channels. Because where else is it going to come from? We live in an ecosystem, right? Prakriti is a perfect, organized biosphere. So nothing new is introduced, at least not in the raw. Everything that comes into and through Prakriti comes through what's already here. You know that. We all know that. It comes through what's already here. And it behooves us to understand that in our workings, right? Curve says pattern I see is people are either doing shadow work or their shadow is doing them, if that makes sense. I can see that. Yeah, man. And in fact, you'll see that doesn't even just apply to this year. That's all of life. Most people are getting done by their shadow. It's glaringly obvious once you start doing your own shadow work, because when you see your own flaws and shortcomings and pain points, then you start to see it in other people. Like, not just see, oh, I don't like the way you do that. It's like, oh, you're doing that because you have unsolved issues. Oh, so your unhealed trauma has caused you to have personality quirks and addictions and obsessions, et cetera, et cetera. Absolutely right, man. Prakriti. Similar to the primary subject of this text. Absolutely. So let's keep getting deeper with this. 50. Let us make this clear by illustration, right? We're talking about magical operations, the results coming through natural channels, not Harry Potter hocus pocus, dragons falling out of the sky, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, hell, we got, never mind. I'm not going to get into the UFOs and ice walls. 50. Let us make this clear by illustration. Supposing we desire to heal sickness, we should, working by the method of the tree, employ a rite of meditation of Tifereth. But are we, for this reason, to limit our operations to the sphere of Tifereth and require the healing to be a purely spiritual healing, as do the Christian scientists? Or shall we modify our method sufficiently to allow of the laying of hands and the anointing with oil, which are operations of the sphere of Yesod, designed to conduct magnetic force? Or shall we, which appears to me the wisest method, make use of an operation of Malcuth also, thus bringing the ever thus bringing the power steadily down the planes into manifestation without break or gap in the transmutation and conduction? So look what she's describing here, right? She just went down the middle pillar of the tree. She just described a magical operation, and how sweet, right? Healing of sickness. You've got somebody who's sick, who's not well, and you're using your knowledge, your wisdom to help them. It isn't simply just a prayer. It isn't simply just visualizing. She's employing the different methods of the different states of consciousness, from Tifereth, right, down to Yesod, all the way down to Malkuth. And this is what she meant earlier by grounding, right? You invoke the power and you ground it in physical means. You ground it in Malkuth. There has to be some physical correspondence, you complete the circuit, right? And I've mentioned this book a million times, Circuit of Force. Add that to your library and read it, The Circuit of Force by Dion Fortune. That'll give you some powerful insight onto the polarities of magic, right? The masculine and feminine aspect, whether it's working with a pair of human people or the masculine and feminine aspects of nature, the elements, etc. 51. And what is an operation of the sphere of Malkuth? It is simply action on the physical plane. Action on the physical plane. That's an operation of Malkuth. In an invocation of healing, therefore, I think we do better to invoke the great physician to manifest his power to us through the human physician. For that is the natural channel then to rely upon a spiritual force, for which the only channel of evocation is the spiritual nature of the patient, who may or may not be able to rise to the occasion. More often than not, it's going to be a patient not being able to rise up to the occasion. Harry Potter. The Chronicles of Sat Ra asks, question, do you do the LBRP daily? No. I used to. I used to a whole hell of a lot. I mean, cumulatively for like over a year and a half, maybe even 2 years or so, I used to do it daily. But no, not at this point in time. Jojo says, I wonder if Timafra is similar to a spring ritual. I remember you mentioning Timafra before. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was something I hadn't heard of at the time. The mental goddess, peace, peace. J Baldhill says, if you're just starting out, you should do it daily. Absolutely. Absolutely. For various reasons. "52. The great spiritual forces can be brought to bear effectively upon the healing of our diseases. That great spiritual forces can be brought to bear effectually upon the healing of our diseases is beyond question, but they must have a channel of manifestation. And why be at great pains to build a psychic one when there is a natural one ready to hand? God moves in a mysterious way. God moves in a mysterious way. His wonders to perform when natural law is a sealed book to us. But when we understand the ways of nature's working, we see that God moves in a perfectly natural way, through the regularly established channels. The difference between the supernatural and the natural does not lie in the channels of manifestation that are used, but in the amount of power that comes through them. Not in quality, but in quantity does the flow of power alter when spiritual forces are successfully invoked. Not in quality, but in quantity does the flow of power alter when spiritual forces are successfully invoked. Amon-Ra Central says, what's the name of the book by Dion Fortune? It's called Circuit of Force. The Circuit of Force. Quick, find it on Amazon. Wraith636 says, Brother Travis, I just recently got Dion Fortune's Esoteric Orders and their work. It seems like an interesting read, but I haven't gotten into it yet. Any opinions on this book? I didn't finish that one, and I don't recall anything standing out to me too like special. So no, I can't really share much of an opinion. I didn't finish it. You might find something though that you can share with me that would get me interested in reading it all the way through. 53. The whole problem of Malkuth is a problem of channels and connecting links. Mm. The rest of the work is done by the mind on the subtler planes. Mm. The real difficulty lies in the transition from the subtle to the dense, for the subtle is so inequipped to work on the dense. This transition is affected by means of the magnetism of living things, whether organic or inorganic. Ce n'est que le dernier pas que coûte in magical operations. I'm not even gonna pretend that I know what that means or how to pronounce it. That's something in French. Perhaps someone here understands French. The only French I know is voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? But anyways, this is a whole verse to highlight. The only reason I didn't highlight this last line is because I don't know what the hell that means. The whole problem of Malkuth is a problem of channels and connecting links. The rest of the work is done by the mind on the subtler planes. So do you see how that works? Channels and connecting links. So your physical stuff, these symbols, they should all relate to each other and be organized in a personal network. And then mentally, the work is being done. So in your physical room, on your altar, you've got I used to have a communion collection plate from a Catholic church. I had a communion collection plate on my altar, and I had my four representatives in that collection plate, right? I had my dagger, I had my chalice, I had my wand, and I had a pentacle thing that represented a pentacle, right? Those are all physical objects. To the outside person, it looks like some random junk. But those physical objects, in my mind, I saw representing the four elements resting upon that fifth element, right? Because in my head, well, hell, it came from a church and they collected communion on it. Or not collected, but passed out communion on it. So this was a holy relic, right? So in the physical on Malkuth, it was just stuff. But they were connected, right? They were connected. They were sanctified, deified. And in my mind, right? The rest of the work is done by the mind on the subtler planes. I knew that those were my personal connection to the four elements, to the angels of those elements, to the elemental kings, right? And everything in that particular room, at the time it was a bathroom, but that was what I had to work with. Everything else was arranged in that room to be symbolic of my own personal temple. To the outsider, it might have looked like a bunch of random junk, but in my mind, the work was being done to connect them all as the spiritual web around me to channel in influences. The mental goddess says circuit boards, and there are circuit boards and their patterns related to the seals of the Goetia. Are they using existing patterns to pull down or invoke energy? Who is they? You're using circuit boards. Are you doing that with your computer? And if that scares you, I recommend you look into these emojis and see how they relate to the goetic sigils as well. But who is they? You're using these circuit boards. You're using it right now. So you can answer that question since you're they. Jojo says, I was reading in her initiate and training book. It said she wrote Esoteric Orders was the book before it, and both are inspired for her Inner Light Society students. Okay. Welcome back, Zero. I noticed that you've changed your name. Holy cow. Yesterday I did an LSD trip. Wow, man. Oh my goodness. I know that was intense. Ah, shit. Amon Ra Central says last night in the dream realm, I was with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Sensei Splinter. They left via backflips into vanishing, saying, "You don't need us anymore." Hey, that's significant. I wonder what that means to you with that four and hidden fifth. And since you saw five, that means there was a hidden sixth. Interesting. All right, so nobody looked this up. I guess we'll have to figure it out later. 54. Three ideas issue from a contemplation of the Yetziratic text related to Malkuth. The concept of the resplendent intelligence which illuminates the splendor of all the lights, the relationship between Malkuth and Binah, and the function of Malkuth in causing an influence to emanate from the angel of Kether. All right, so there's three ideas that we're going to expand upon related to what the Yetziratic text said about Malkuth, right? Idea number one is the concept of the resplendent intelligence which illuminates the splendor of all the lights. Number two, the relationship between Malkuth and Binah. Does anybody already know the relationship between Malkuth and Binah? And number three, the function of Malkuth in causing an influence to emanate from the angel of Kether. Perhaps someone here knows about that third one, because I think I did mention it before. Or if you know about your archangels, you might understand where she's going to go with that third concept. ACW, peace, peace. Elashi Eternal says the world card, the 21st path, is Saturn. Okay, okay. Good, good. Somebody is utilizing their library of correspondences. Thank you, Curve. Curve says it means it is only the last step that costs. It is only the last step that costs in magical operations. The real difficulty lies in the transition from the subtle to the dense. The real difficulty lies in the transition from the subtle to the dense. For the subtle is so inequipped to work on the dense. This transition is affected by means of the magnetism of living things, whether organic or inorganic. So it's like you have to. So with that being said, it only makes sense that the actual work is done by the mind, because Malkuth and the stuff that we have here is just that. It's just stuff. It's just physical. Like nothing means anything. This is a pen. It's in the shape of a unicorn. It doesn't mean anything, but it's my mind that makes it mean something. Hell, the scribblings on this book don't mean anything, but it's our understanding of the human language, English. I mean, shit, these are the same exact letters in the same alphabet, and I didn't understand what that meant. It's all just stuff, but the mind that does the work. So it will make sense that the real trouble is the transition from the subtle to the dense, because the subtle is inequipped to work on the dense. This this transition is affected by means of magnetism of living things, whether organic or inorganic. It's our mind that assembles the meaning and puts all this stuff together. It is only the last step that counts in magical operations. Hmm. Laying Adam, peace, peace. Laying Adam says, Hales, need to brush up on it. I ain't gonna be you, so no. I don't know barely on chapter 5 of this book. The last steps being the result. Yes, we can most certainly say that. Sunshine Chick says inferior, superior mother. Yes, yes, we got Binah, Malcuth. And remember, it's Malcuth that sits upon the throne of Binah. And we know that one of the symbols for Binah is exactly a throne. Malcuth is the princess that sits on the throne of the queen. Ronell Chapman, peace, peace. Let's get into it once again. By the way, a hint toward this last one is Metatron and Sandalphon. 55. It may seem a curious idea that Malkuth, which is the material world, should be the illuminator of the lights. We can understand this, however, if we refer to the analogy of physics, which tells us that the sky only appears blue and luminous owing to the reflection of light from the innumerable dust particles floating in the atmosphere. Absolutely dustless air is unilluminated, and our sky would have the darkness of interstellar space if it were not for these dust particles. We also learn from the study of physics that we see objects solely by means of the rays of light they reflect from their surface. When there is little or no reflection, as with black cloth, it is almost invisible in a dim light, a property made much use of by conjurers and illusionists. I love me some black cloth and dim light, I tell you what. Zero says Binah is that first form energy, and Malkuth is the last that compresses all behind it. Hey man, what did you pick up from that LSD trip? All this Qabalah research and practice, and then you dive head first. I'm curious as to what you picked up over there in that state. 56. It is the formative, concreting function of Malkuth which finally renders tangible and definite what was upon the higher planes, intangible and indefinite. It is the formative, concreting function of Malkuth which finally renders tangible and definite what was upon the higher planes, intangible and indefinite. And this is its great service to manifestation and its characteristic power. All the lights, that is to say, the emanations of all the other Sephiroth, become illuminated, visible, when reflected from the concrete aspects of Malkuth. So, in other words, it is due to Malkuth that we can even conceive of the glory of God. If it wasn't for this material plane, we would have no way to look back up and see the direction to go. In a universe where everything is pure potentiality, we find Malkuth as this anomaly, right? This island of existence in an ocean of non existence. I mean, really. Yet everything here on this tiny island of existence gives us a clue of infinity. Every single mundane aspect of this planet, of this realm, we're used to it, right? Because we've been here all of our lives. But every single thing that we encounter with our five senses is a potential key to heaven. Fantastic. But you literally have to be able to see it, right? Like I said, we're so used to it. We're so what's the word? Where you're like dulled out, where you've seen too much violence and now it doesn't affect you. Desensitized, that's it. We're desensitized to the glory. Like we don't even realize how incredible and almost impossible it is to have this technology at our disposal, let alone the equipment of our imaginations, the equipment of manifestation, and the technology of emotions and harnessing symbols. Like, we don't even recognize what we're dealing with, man. I mean, look at what this woman is doing with words alone, with the English language. She's not even in a physical body anymore. And this work will touch people as long as people read books. And even greater works will you do, right? We've got technology that, just imagine what she could have done with AI and chat GPT and whatever else with an iPhone. But all of that is Malkuth. That's the way of Malkuth, right? Zero says, man, I'll be like an elevator to the top and then deep, deep down to the void. I went through beautiful heavens and damn disgusting hells. But in the end, the source and the void was the same. I have that kind of realization. Yo, I love that. I love that because I can relate and I know exactly what you're talking about. Or at least in my own way, I understand what you're talking about. Hell yeah. In the in the end, the source and the void was the same. WT says my man went on a trip and came back with a new name and some more. Let's go. Last Eternal says that oath of abyss type vision. Man, Planet Oz. Peace, peace. J Baldhill says respect, Zero. Malcuth 57. Every magical operation must come through to Malcuth before it can be reckoned to have attained completion. It's the last step that matters, right? It's the last step that matters. Or excuse me, it is only the last step that costs. C Main, peace. C Main says, can AI ever have consciousness? I think it would be very helpful to examine a good definition of what consciousness means. Because really, it would be the other way around. Consciousness has us. Consciousness, right? According to the occult, not according to what science or psychology calls consciousness, but according to spirituality, right? Consciousness is the soul. It is Purusha. It's the God aspect. It is the all of the Kabbalion. That's what consciousness is. So there's nothing that exists outside of consciousness. There's nothing that exists outside of consciousness. Prakriti exists inside of Purusha, inside of consciousness. The matrix exists inside of consciousness. So everything that is exists inside of consciousness. Consciousness can have intelligence, but consciousness has organic and inorganic things. Everything is consciousness. Consciousness is what we hope to realize at some point in our existence. Consciousness is what everything hopes to realize in this existence. Self awareness would be an aspect of intelligence. Self preservation, that's an aspect of intelligence. But intelligence is an aspect of consciousness. Zero says, man, I need to be so fucking focused and strong in those hells. Every being was like disrespectful to me in a hard way. But in the end, just do it. Just do it to my ego because when I just let go, they incline. I think this was my most powerful trip. I heard that, man. Every magical operation must come through Malkuth before it can be reckoned to have attained completion. For only in Malkuth is the force finally locked home into form. Therefore, all magic work is better carried out in the form of a ritual performed on the physical plane, even if the operator is working alone, than simply as a form of meditation operating upon the astral plane only. Trav, do I have to do the ritual in the physical plane or can I just imagine it? Well, I would say it does depend on the degree of experience, right? Because with a lot of experience, you'll figure out the right way for you. But with little to no experience, you absolutely should be doing physical rituals. Because there's a dance, there's a balance, right? There's a circuit of force between the physical, what we just talked about, because the physical is just stuff, but the mind is laying down the overlay, the framework on top of that stuff. The magic is happening through the mind, and through the mind, it goes into the physical. So, of course, you've got to do both. But eventually, as you do rituals over years, you start to see what's happening with that mental overlay, and there's less physical that you have to do. Or I should say, not even less physical. You refine the physical that you do. You refine, right? You don't have to do a million steps because you know that 5 of those million steps are what actually gets the job done. Just like when you're cooking a recipe for the first time, you keep checking the text, right? You keep checking the recipe. You keep checking, okay, well, it says this much, I have to do this next, I have to do this next. But after you do that same recipe over and over and over and over again and you get it right and you do it the way you like it, you don't have to look at the manual anymore. You just do it. And hell, after a while, you can customize and tweak it and make it your own. It's the exact same thing. But you don't start off there. You don't look at a picture of lasagna and then just wing it. You can, but there's a higher probability for failure. But after you practice it a bunch, you know what? I don't like the cottage cheese, so I'm gonna leave that out, right? You tweak it to your taste. You know exactly what you're doing. And by the end of it, it might not even be lasagna, but it will be something that you enjoy making. That's what this is. So let me read that again. Every magical operation must come through to Malkuth before it can be reckoned to have attained completion. For only in Malkuth is the force finally locked home into form. Therefore, all magical work is better carried out in the form of a ritual performed on the physical plane. Even if the operator is working alone, then simply as a form of meditation operating upon the astral plane only. There must be something upon the physical plane, even if it be no more than lines drawn on a talisman or the writings of signs upon the air, which brings the action through to the plane of Malkuth. Experience proves that an operation so terminated is a very different matter to an operation which begins and ends on the astral. Please believe that. Because listen, like, even as I say, oh, with experience, there's less you have to do. I'm not saying like I just walk around and visualize it and it's good. Like, oh no, there's physical stuff that I do too because of this concept to anchor it in. You got to do work on all the planes: the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the physical. You got to make sure that there's alignment on all those planes. That's how you get manifestation consistently, by aligning what's happening on all the planes that you exist on. It's as above, so below. Remember, I asked last week or a couple days ago, do you have a world in your head that is drastically different from the world that your body's walking through? Are you able to reconcile it at all? And hopefully, as you're taking notes on your trials and your errors, you'll see that there is a different flavor of magic when you do your rituals on the astral plane only. There's magic that I do in the astral plane only and don't connect it to the physical. In my experience, I find that those type of rituals are best for stirring up types of emotions, types of thoughts, types of memories, right? When you're not really certain what you want physically, but you know what kind of vibe you want to experience, I find that those types of rituals work best for that. When you don't necessarily want a physical, concrete manifestation yet, but maybe you want to cultivate the emotional environment, the mental environment, well, then these types of astral rituals are even better for that. She says, experience proves that an operation so terminated is a very different matter to an operation which begins and ends on the astral. 58. The relationship between Malkuth and Binah is very clearly indicated in the titles assigned to both these Sephirah. The relationship between Malkuth and Binah is very clearly indicated in the titles assigned to both of these Sephirah. Binah is the superior mother, and Malkuth the inferior mother, as we have already seen. Binah is the primordial giver of form. Malkuth being the sphere of form, the relationship is obvious. That which had its inception in Binah has its culmination in Malkuth. Boom. Sunshine Chick dropped it. Zero dropped it. This point gives us an important clue by means of which to guide our researches among the ramifications of the polytheistic pantheons. The Kabbalistic system is explicit concerning the doctrine of emanations, whereby the one unfolds into the many, right? Just like when homie asked the question about AI, And I made a statement about consciousness. It's consciousness that's first, and everything comes out of consciousness. That's what this means. The one unfolds into the many. That's the all from the Kabbalion. That's the Brahma. That's the God. That's the ultimate reality, the Shiva, or past Shiva, actually. Consciousness, pure, undifferentiated consciousness. But that pure consciousness becomes intelligence, it becomes things, it becomes people, animals, computers, and crystals, and rocks, and cars. It becomes things. It starts as consciousness and becomes matter. Nothing starts as matter and becomes conscious. So anything that you can experience, whether it's a Coca-Cola can or an AI program or a bunch of kittens, it's all consciousness. Now, the degree of consciousness we can talk about, right? There's different levels and degrees of consciousness, but there is nothing that you're going to experience that does not exist within consciousness. If you live in a house, right? You live in a room, you live in a house. The house lives in a county or a city. Your city lives in a state or a country. Your country lives on a planet. Your planet supposedly lives in a solar system, right? You're not going to leave the solar system, not that body at least. Likewise, the matrix, Prakriti, does not leave consciousness, does not leave Purusha, does not leave the soul. The conscious mind does not leave the subconscious mind. Your personality doesn't leave your subconscious mind. Uh oh. Uh oh. The Kabbalistic system is explicit concerning the doctrine of emanations, whereby the one unfolds into the many, and the many are reabsorbed into the one. No other system is specific upon this point, though in all of them it is hinted under the guise of genealogies. Like the beginning of the Bible, I think it's the book of Kings, one of my favorite parts of The Sims too. The begettings and matings of the gods and goddesses, by no means always in holy wedlock, give definite indication of the implicit doctrines of emanation and polarity, and are not merely ribald fantasies of primitive man creating the gods in his own image and likeness. 59. A careful comparison of the information that has come down to us concerning the rites by which the ancients worshipped their many gods soon reveals that the clear-cut myths, so delightfully retold for children, have little bearing upon the actual religion of the folk who used them as the means of expression for spiritual teachings. The gods and goddesses melt one into the other in the most perplexing fashion, so that we get the bearded Venus and Hercules, of all persons, arrayed in female clothes. Hercules in female clothes? No way. We need to cancel Hercules now. Even Hercules took the contract. There's an agenda. Mm. 60. It is clear from a study of ancient arts that the persons and characteristics of the various gods and goddesses were used as a form of picture writing to indicate definite abstract ideas, of which the convention was well understood by the priesthood, having to deal with an illiterate population for the most part, for learning was limited to very few in those days. They wisely said, "Look on this symbol and think about this story. You may not know what it means, but you are looking in the right direction, the direction whence light arises. And in proportion as you are able to receive it, light will flow into your soul if you contemplate these ideas. It is probable to the point of certainty that the illumination given in the mysteries included the elucidation of the metaphysics of these truths, of these myths. To be honest, I would say that nothing has changed. I would say that humanity is the same as it was, as it is now. So even though we read verse number 60 and we think about these primitive farm hands being ruled over by these priests wearing robes and long beards, I don't think that that has changed at all. I think it's the same exact situation. So let me read that again and imagine that this is modern day with your current forms of entertainment. It is clear from a study of ancient art that the persons had characteristics of the various gods and goddesses were used as a form of picture writing to indicate definite abstract ideas, of the which the convention was well understood by the priesthood. So look, we're not talking about cave drawings today. We're talking about movies, right? Your Iron Man and your Spider Man and your Superman, Denzel as the equalizer. We're talking about like movies and even musicians and athletes. Definite abstract ideas, well understood by the priesthood, having to deal with an illiterate population for the most part, nothing's changed. For the learning was limited to very few in those days. They wisely said, "Look on this symbol and think about this story. You may not know what it means, but you are looking in the right direction, the direction whence light arises. And in proportion as you are able to receive it, light will flow into your soul if you contemplate these ideas. It is probable to the point of certainty that the illumination given in the mysteries included the elucidation of the metaphysics of these myths." So, yeah, sure, more people can read now, but the sentiment is the same. Wraith636 says it's interesting how these books were written many centuries ago, but still very relevant to this day. So, like, we're used to pop culture, which changes frequently, especially like hip hop culture, black so-called black culture. It changes damn near every month or quicker. But when you really start getting into truth and metaphysics, things don't change. You start to see that it's like there's one reality, and there's different angles to see it from, but there's one reality where things don't change. And most people don't operate from that angle. Most people operate from the angle of things moving and changing all the time, looking for the next hack, the next tip, the next trick. But like underneath all of that, there's a layer of fundamentals that don't change, and the whys operate from that level. I think it's real. I think it's probable to the point of certainty to say that Dion Fortune was operating from that level with this type of teaching here. 61. Persephone, Diana, Aphrodite, Hera all exchanged their symbols, functions, characteristics, and even subordinate titles in a bewildering manner in Greek myths and art. Likewise do Priapus, Pan, Apollo, and Zeus. The best we can say of them is that all the goddesses are great mothers, and all the gods are givers of life. All the goddesses are great mothers, and all the gods are givers of life. I'll even say all the goddesses are the great mother, and all the gods are the giver of life. If we can keep reducing that, all the goddesses are Prakriti and all the gods are Purusha. Amun Ra Central said, I discovered the hidden six. Fantastic. Fantastic. Quite a few wins this evening. What's in the air? What is in the air? Jojo says millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires do. I've seen it in a meme. Right, right. We get the concept, right? The regular person doesn't use the occult. The hyper successful person does. Now, they might not share it with you. I believe I can fly. Zero says that's totally true. That's why all the goddesses in Hinduism as seen as Shakti and male as Shiva. Precisely. Precisely. Once again, right? One unfolds into the many, and the many are reabsorbed into the one. I'm not just yapping out the side of my head here. Like these are occult principles. The one becomes many, and the many become one. All the goddesses are one goddess. All the gods are one god. The difference between them lying not in function, but in the level upon which they function. So you see that the differences between all these goddesses is not the function that they provide, because Lilith may provide some of the same functions as, say, Hecate. It's not the function, but it's the level upon which they function. It's the level. A distinction is drawn between the celestial Venus and the goddess of earthly love of the same name. The discerning can see an equal distinction and an equal underlying identity between Zeus, the Allfather, and Priapus, equally addicted to fatherhood. Addicted to fatherhood. But after another manner, the one being earthly, where the other is celestial. Nevertheless, Nevertheless, they are not two gods, but one God, just as Binah and Malcuth are not two distinct types of force, but the same force, functioning on different levels. Wow. Binah and Malkuth are the same force, functioning on different levels. This is the key to the understanding of the significance of phallic worship, which plays so important a part in all ancient and primitive faiths. A part so little understood by their scholastic interpreters. So you think about the Shiva lingam, that's a big deal in Hinduism, right? The lingam, the phallus. Not to mention modern man and woman's addiction to pornography. Nothing new under the sun. But why, right? Its real meaning is the bringing down of the Godhead into manhood in the hope of taking manhood up into the Godhead, a process which is also the basis of the Freudian therapy. 62. The statement that Malkuth causes an influence to emanate from the angel of Kether further bears out this idea. We see that the Great Mother, which is Malkuth, polarizes with the All-Father, which is Kether. 63. This classification, however, is too simple to serve us adequately. Whether we are reducing a pagan pantheon to its simplest terms, or dealing with the chances and changes of personal life, but in the four quarters, or elements, into which Malkuth is divided, we find the key that we need. Framestar Films. Peace, peace, peace and greetings. 64. These four elements are said to be earth, air, fire, and water of the wise. That is to say, four types of activity. They are represented in the notation of esoteric science by four different types of triangle. Fire is represented by a triangle pointed upwards, air by a smaller triangle with a bar across it, thus indicating that air may be esteemed as akin in nature to fire, but denser. In fact, we should not go far wrong if we called air negative fire, or fire positive air. Hmm. Water is represented by a triangle pointed downwards, and earth by the same triangle with a bar across it. And to these two symbols, the same principles apply as to their predecessors. In other words, water could be seen as, let's see, let me get it right. Earth could be seen as negative water, and water could be seen as positive earth. Supposing then, we consider the fire triangle as representing unconditioned force, and the air triangle is representing conditioned force, right? Because fire and air, the masculine elements, they are force. They're force. One is conditioned and one is unconditioned, right? So fire, unconditioned force. Air, conditioned force. Now, earth and water are form, right? We got force and form. So, the earth triangle as representing totally inert form, and the water triangle is representing an active type of form. We have another mode of classification available. In the most ancient myths, the air or space god is the parent of the sun, celestial fire, and water is the matrix of earth. This comes out clearly in the central pillar of the Tree of Life, where Kether, space, overshadows Tifereth, the sun center, and the watery Yasad, the moon center, overshadows the earthly Malkuth. 66. Or supposing we arrange the symbols composing the glyph after another manner, which it is the glory of the tree that it enables us to do, and place them as the four elements citrine, olive, russet, and black. You know, those are the four colors of Malkuth, in the sphere of Malkuth, and consider the life force descending from Kether as operating after the manner of an alternating current of electricity, which the doctrine of alternating polarity teaches us to do. We find that force will sometimes be flowing from Malkuth to Kether, and sometimes from Kether to Malkuth. Unless it's solely to make a baby. Good luck with that, buddy. The mere genetics of him being a male expose that lie. But anyways, 67. Now, this is an all-important point when applied to the microcosm, for it teaches us that we need to be in circuit, right? Because that's what she's talking about here. This alternating current, Malkuth to Kether, Kether to Malkuth. She mentioned the positive and negative aspects of the masculine and feminine. So you've got the four, which is positive masculine, positive feminine, negative feminine. In other words, positive force, positive form, negative form. In other words, fire, air, earth, water. Check this out, 67. Now, this is an all important point when applied to the microcosm, for it teaches us that we need to be in circuit with the earth soul just as much as with the God of heaven. Mm. There is an inspiration that rises up from the unconscious quite as much as there is an inspiration that flows down from the superconscious. 68. This comes out clearly in the Greek myths, wherein we find such positive earth forces as Pan, who, by virtue of his goat symbolism, cannot be assigned otherwise than to the sphere of earth. For Capricorn is the most earthy of the earthy triplicity. Pan represents the positive magnetism of the earth, uprushing in its return to the All Father. Ceres, on the other hand, or many breasted Diana, who are both very earthly Venuses and far from virgin, represent the final earthing of the heavenly force in dense matter. Hera, who has been called the celestial Venus or heavenly Aphrodite, represents the return of the uprushing earth force to heaven and is earth positive on a celestial level. So, one major thing to take away here, if all this stuff doesn't really find root for you, one thing to take away is if you're someone who does work with multiple gods and goddesses, multiple deities, consider if it's true that all gods are one god, the giver of life, and all goddesses are one goddess, the giver of form, the mother. Consider if that's true. All goddesses are the same goddess and all gods are the same god. The difference being on what level they operate. What level? The Vedics and the Hindus understood that. The Egyptians understood that. I believe the Greeks and the Romans understood that. The ones who wrote the Bible understood that. How could it change your spiritual work if you work with deities like that? If you understood that all the masculine deities were the same deity and all the feminine deities were the same deity? I think that it would be so much easier for you to connect with yourself if you understood that. Because even you, your soul, your brain, your body operates on that polarity. It requires that polarity of positive and negative, of masculine and feminine. Just like a battery. Just like a battery. Left brain, right brain. I think that understanding overshadows what god or goddess you work with. Because regardless of it's right brain or left brain, it's still the same one brain, right? It takes both to make one brain. It takes positive and negative to make that one battery. You have to have both functioning in harmony. Sly, peace. Kevin Wise, peace and greetings. Ray 636 says Baphomet comes to mind when I think of the combination of earthly masculine and feminine energy combined. Yeah. And also think about it beyond body parts, right? I mean, obviously, we like what was said before. We have to personify it, think of it as people, and think of it as a concrete thing. But try to go beyond the body as well. What is feminine beyond a physical body? What is masculine beyond a physical body? Like, what does it mean? What is what does feminine and masculine look like beyond a body? What do those energies look like? Or what do they? How do they operate? What do they feel like? I think that's a super important concept to have fleshed out in your head. I think one of the things that the human organism, the collective unconscious, is trying to show all of us is that this energy of masculine and feminine is something more than a body. I think that we, as a collective, haven't done such a good job in understanding energy. So it's almost as if we're trying to force ourselves to see that. Jojo says, so what's the difference between working with the entities as one and created entities? It's the same goal. Well, the intention depends on you. The intention depends on you. But what's the difference with working with them? Well, just like what Dion Fortune said, these different entities are a matter of what level of the force you're working with. They're a matter of what level of the force you're working with. So think about the intention and what impact you want that intention to manifest as. Is it something physical? Is it something in your personal life? Something on a little bit of a bigger scale than that? Something in your health, in your body, something in your finances, something in the community? You know what I'm saying? Like what level? Every sphere of life is its own level. So the difference is, are you being general or specific? You can think about the different gods and goddesses as a different focus on your magnifying glass, right? I had a microscope when I was a kid. My parents bought me a little microscope, and I could take these slides and put these organisms on it, and you could change the lens, right? Just like the back of this phone, it's got like three lenses. You can change the lens to see how deep you wanted to zoom in or zoom out, right? That's what these different gods and goddesses, that's the difference there. One guy's going to give you this overview. Another guy's going to get you zoomed in a little bit more. One might get you zoomed in to the point that you can't see anything else. That's the difference between Priapus and Zeus. Priapus is the god with the eternal erection. He's only got one job. He's got one job. She said addicted to fatherhood. Whereas Zeus, he's still got those qualities, but he's responsible for a lot more. He has a much wider scope. That's what these different gods and goddesses are. The same energy, but it's a different magnification. Wait a minute now. Uh oh. Underlay, underlay, mama, yeah, yeah. Uh oh. What's popping the dime? Larissa S. Arte. Peace. Greetings. Welcome. Underlay, underlay, mama, yeah, yeah. Uh oh. I'm a sucker for corn toes and manicured toes. Wait, corn toes and manicured rose? You know the lyrics. Zero says, for me, feminine is magnetic, masculine is electric. Force and form. Force and form. Loris says it's energy body, not physical body. Facts. Ela says the Starbucks logo, she says Starbucks, they look like Starbucks. The Starbucks logo is based on the goddess Mixoparthenos, who was worshipped by Scythian people in the 7th century BC. Mixoparthenos had the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a snake. Mixoparthenos is androgynous. Mixoparthenos, what a name. I'm going to look her up. Jojo says, I remember Dion Fortune saying in her Book of the Dead, focus on what you're doing in the here after, not focusing on the environment like a golden rule. Larice or Larice? Okay, excuse me, Larice. Larice. Ela says feminine is contraction and masculine expansion. What's poppin' tonight? Zero says, and the union of both energies is that consciousness that is everything but nothing at the same time. That point of perfect potential. Indeed. Indeed. Uh-oh. 69. These are things difficult to elucidate to those who have not seen the sun at midnight. They yield much to meditation, but little to disputation. When I first got this book in 2015, I thought that line was so cool, the sun at midnight, that I named my first online business in that year, the Midnight Sun. That wonderful business earned me a whopping $0 because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But that's how it usually starts out, right? Midnight Sun. And that was one of those cases where you ever get excited about doing something and you do all the unnecessary stuff. What I mean is, like, I went out and I went to LegalZoom, you know what I'm saying? I got my LLC for my business and paid all this money and got all these things set up for the business. But then I had no idea what the business actually was, what I was going to sell, where I was going to get products from. I spent all this money investing on what looked good from the outside, right? And I think a lot of people start that way. They get excited about something, but they get distracted by the stuff that doesn't actually move the needle forward. That's like wanting to be a musician and you buy fancy equipment and instruments and keyboards and you buy the guitar and the microphone and you get all your studio set up, but you don't know how to use any of it. Yeah, yeah. I hope you're not stuck there. I hope you have moved past that phase because God bless America. That is quite a learning phase right there, I tell you. Or imagine even being an occultist, right? And you go out and spend hundreds of dollars on like a custom carved wand, and you get a bunch of crystals and robes, and you buy all these books that you haven't opened. You got all the equipment, and you haven't done a ritual yet. Mm. You built your website for your business. You built you a couple of funnels. You got you a button of red, split test with a green button. Like you got all the accoutrements and accessories, but no meat. You got ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise. I hope that you all have passed that phase. I pray that everyone listening is past that phase in whatever endeavor that they've taken up. Whatever you're interested in, whatever you've invested your energy into, I pray that you are past that phase. And if you're not, let my words disturb you to the point that you stop wasting your time. Oh, excuse me. Let my words disturb you so that you make moves that are useful and appropriate. Goodness gracious, boy. You want a box, right? So you buy the nicest gloves, get yourself a little mouthpiece, get you some shorts, get you a couple of boxing shorts, get you a robe, get your name embroidered on the back of your robe. Imagine getting all that equipment, but you haven't invested in a gym membership yet, right? You haven't found a trainer yet. But you're looking, right? You're looking. You're gonna be a boxer. You're gonna be a boxer. But the question is, why didn't you take that money and find you a trainer? Why are you doing everything else except what moves the needle? And you want to know something? Now that I say that, that doesn't go away because as I'm talking, I'm scanning and thinking right now, there's a lot of stuff I'm doing that's not moving the needle, and I need to get on my focus as well. Fat Tony says that's all night hustling to the midnight sun. Yeah, I love it. The midnight sun. Baris says looking at the road and not taking the step. Me and Sly just spoke on this. Nice. All the equipment and no rituals is crazy. Hey, don't tell me you ain't been through that. Don't tell me you ain't been there. Don't tell me you ain't been there. You know, I'm about $1,000 camera. Talking about I'm about to be a YouTuber. You bought $1,000 camera, but you didn't spend that money on a course of how to make successful videos for social media. I'm trying to do something different with my life. Right. You still got that little business. You still got your little YouTube channel. Y'all still making y'all little music. You still do your little art. WT says never sparred with nobody. $300 gloves. Right. You still got your little YouTube. Yamaka says I've been wanting a computer set up, but I don't quite know my way around one. Hey man, and welcome Yamaka. It's only a YouTube search away. It's only a Google search away. Think of it this way. Anything that you've ever wanted to do, somebody's already done it. And if you can just find them and listen to them talk about it, it will save you so many lessons, so many struggles. Fast forward. Anything that you want to do in life, somebody has already done it and they've done it far better than you can imagine. Find them and learn from them. Even if they've only done it a little bit better than you can still learn something from them. You still doing your little book reads on YouTube? You still doing your little tarot on TikTok? All right, let's get back to this. You still got your little hair, your little barbershop, you still got your little salon. Sinforma, peace. Sinforma says, don't ask me nothing you can Google. Kanye West. All love to y'all, Micah, though. Yeah, and no disrespect, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like at this point, if there's anything that I want to know, I am not gonna waste no time beating myself up. I'm gonna go search it, find somebody, and listen to them yap. I think that is time that is useful and appropriately spent. Kevros, SS God, peace and welcome. He says, hello, everyone. The dreams are getting wild these past few days. Hmm. I remember that my dream was pretty intense, but unfortunately, I did not take the steps to remember it. Take the step and let the path form around your feet. That's usually how it goes. Clarice says Mars direct with Pisces Sun, so dreams wild. Makes sense. There we go. Zero says, I always remember what you said. I recently found one YouTube channel, and the man does the style and the type of videos I always want to, and was so inspirational to looking to start. Perfect, perfect. Oh yeah, you know you're trying to start a little car washing business. Why is it always gonna be Lil, man? It's always gotta be Lil. You still got that little crack addiction? You still got your little crack addiction. It's always gotta be Lil, man. Lil. Alright. You still got that little girlfriend? Mm. It's big, thank you very much. It's a big deal. 69. These are things difficult to elucidate to those who have not seen the sun at midnight. They yield much to meditation, but little to disputation. Gotta put the work in. 70. In the sphere of Malkuth are worked all divinations. Now, the object of any method of divination is hard. Now, the object of any method of divination is to find a set of things on the physical plane which correspond accurately and comprehensively to the invisible forces in the same way that the movements of the hands of a clock correspond to the passage of time. Hmm. Let me read that again. In the sphere of Malkuth are worked all divinations. Now, the object of any method of divination, right? The object of any method of divination is to find a set of things on the physical plane which correspond accurately and comprehensively to the invisible forces in the same way that the movements of the hands of a clock correspond to the passage of time. So, what does she mean by that? She's talking about divinations and what the purpose of divination is. And when working divination, the whole point is to find stuff that's happening here in your tangible environment that correlates with what's happening on the spiritual plane. And it should correlate just like you can look at the hands on the clock and say, oh, it's 9:41. I know that because the position of the small hand and the big hand. So just like you can look at that symbol of those numbers and the hands pointing to those numbers, you can tell exactly what time it is. That's what divination is like. Now, you can use tarot cards to do that because these tarot cards serve as symbols, just like hands on a clock, that point to specific things. And the art and practice of divination is being able to look at these symbols and determine what time it is, right? To know exactly what time it is. That's what divination is. And I think that's a wonderful definition, don't you think? 71. For revealing general trends and conditions, it is agreed by universal experience of those who have studied such matters that astrology is the best system of correspondences. We doing big magic around here. But for obtaining an answer to a single question, it is not sufficiently specific. For too many factors may come in to modify the result. The initiated diviner, therefore, makes use of the more specific systems, such as divination by the tarot or geomancy, when he wants to obtain an answer to a specific question. So, hey, it might be a good idea to start learning tarot. Tarot is not just for people who want to make a YouTube and get donations. Tarot can help you read the energy around you. And you know what? When you're doing it for yourself, that really takes the pressure off of it. And it helps you to learn it for reasons that are going to directly impact you instead of trying to keep up with TikTok. Clarice says initiations make a difference. Yeah. I mean, it depends on what you mean by initiation, right? What does that mean? And what do you mean when you say that, right? Zero says totally agree. I think tarot is so well and refined library of correspondences. It's even the path working of the tree, but I don't know. Maybe I get too far. Yeah, right. It's correspondences for deep astro psychological uh, circumstances. That's why it works so well. Oh, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. She did mention that. Where was it at? Yeah, the initiated diviner. There it is. That's what it was. She says initiations make a difference. Yeah, so initiations here, on one hand, it could mean it to her specific school, not like the school that she made, but like the Golden Dawn and affiliated, because they teach in a specific way. And also, when she mentions initiated, she's talking about transitioning from a person who doesn't know how this stuff works to the mindset of a person who does know. That's really what initiation is. The transition from having a mind where you don't understand the esoteric aspects to crossing that line to where your mind does understand these esoteric aspects. So those are two completely different perspectives. And those two different perspectives are going to look at tarot and astrology and any other magical thing differently. Jojo, to answer your question, you want to go to Indastro, Indastro. Go to Indastro. That's the best one that I've seen for years. There's others, like there's other apps and stuff you can get. But I always go back to Indastro, Indastro, as far as Vedic astrology birth chart is free, and also the paid options are comprehensive, very detailed, and that's what I love about Vedic astrology. It can get extremely detailed. So yeah, check out Indastro. All right, let's keep going. So 72, but it is of little use to go into a shop and buy a pack of tarot cards unless there is the knowledge necessary to build up the astral correspondences to each card, right? And Cosmic Puzzle Piece says tarot cards are spooky accurate. You know what? The cards are just pictures on paper. It's the reader that makes it scary accurate. It's the reader that makes it scary accurate. A lot of them say, oh, it's in the cards, it's in the cards. Yeah, but the cards require human interpretation. Otherwise, it's just matter, right? But yeah, to an initiated occultist, right? It is scary accurate. Somebody that knows what they're doing. Absolutely. So yeah, it is of little use to go into the dollar store and buy a pack of tarot cards unless there is the knowledge necessary to build up the astral correspondences to each card. And the same thing should be done with Kabbalah. The same thing should be done with the spirits that you're working with. All the magical stuff, you should be building up internal correspondences, astral correspondences. This unicorn pin, once again, doesn't mean anything. Maybe not to you, but my astral correspondences are enough to make this a powerful tool of mass destruction. Cataclysmic. This takes time as there are 72 cards to work with. On verse number 72. Once it is done, however, the operator can take the cards into his hands with a considerable degree of confidence that his subconscious mind, whatever that may be, will all unwittingly deal the cards that refer to the matter in question. Exactly how the shuffle and deal is affected, we do not know. But one thing is certain. One thing is certain. When the great angel of the tarot has been contacted, the cards are remarkably revealing. Remarkable. Remarkable. The land of enchantment. Peace, peace, peace. Yamaika says, I noticed old comic panels look a lot like tarot cards. I wonder if anyone who happens to have an old comic collection and happens to be versed in the occult, I wonder if those old comics could be used as divination tools. The answer is yes. Yes, they can. Larry says these systems should definitely correspond, and the unicorn pin means everything. LOL. Once I see that pin, I stop scrolling. Slash says I saw a 777 in Egypt while I lived in Cairo, both on a car's license plate and a sticker on another car. Thought of Travis and the tribe. Lovely. Zero says yes, even Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You just need the correct correspondence. I mean, right. Let me like I told the story of how my cousin got a deck of Dragon Ball Z cards. And I mean Dragon Ball Z, that was our freaking childhood. From from the beginning all the way up to the end of the Buu saga, because they kept playing those episodes over and over and over, over and over and over the whole time I was in high school. So like we have a deep mythology with Dragon Ball Z. So he got this pack of Dragon Ball Z playing cards, and he's at this party giving people the chills with tarot readings using those cards. And at first I was like, man, you can't do that. But let him do his thing. Hey, anything can be used as a divination tool. It depends on you, right? It depends on you. So let's keep going. When the great angel of the tarot has been contacted, the cards are remarkably revealing. 73. Having considered the general principles of the sphere of Malkuth, we are now in a position to study its special symbolism with profit. 74. It is called the kingdom. In other words, the sphere ruled by the king. And the king is the title of the microprosopus, who consists of the six central Sephiroth, excluding the three supernals. So, like the body of the tree. We may regard Malkuth, or the material sphere, as the sphere of manifestation of these six central Sephiroth, which themselves are emanated by the three supernals. Everything, then, ends in Malkuth, even as everything begins in Kether. Kether, 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 Kether. 75. The magical image of Malkuth is a young woman, crowned and veiled. This is the Isis of nature, her face veiled to show that the spiritual forces are hidden within the outer form. This idea is also present in the symbolism of Binah, which is summed up in the concept of the outer robe of concealment. Malkuth, as is clearly set forth in the Yetziratic text, is Binah upon a lower arc. Malkuth is Binah upon a lower arc. Remember what we said about the goddesses? They're all one goddess, but it depends on what angle you're working from. 76. Now, Binah is called the dark sterile mother, and Malkuth is called the bride of the microprosopus, or the bright fertile mother. So one's the dark sterile mother, one's the bright fertile mother. Binah is the dark, sterile mother. Malkuth is the bright, fertile mother. And these correspond to the dual aspects of the Egyptian moon goddess as Isis and Hathor. Isis being the positive aspect of the goddess, and Hathor the negative aspect. In Greek symbolism, these would correspond to Aphrodite and Ceres. Now, Aphrodite is the positive aspect of the female potency. For be it remembered that under the law of alternating polarity, that which is negative on the outer planes is positive on the inner, and vice versa. Aphrodite, the celestial Venus, is the giver of magnetic stimulus to the spiritually negative male. It is because her function is not understood in modern life that so much is wrong with modern life. Amen to that. That's one of the biggest sicknesses of this modern incarnation of human culture is the outrageous disrespect that we give to the feminine force. Oh, lopsided culture, lopsided humanity, heavy on the right. Hmm. It is because her function is not understood in modern life that so much is wrong with modern life. Binah, the higher aspect of Isis, is, however, barren because the positive pole is always the giver of the stimulus, but never the producer of the result. Mm. Always the producer of the stimulus, but never the positive pole is always the giver of the stimulus, but never the producer of the result. So remember that when we're talking about the masculine and the feminine, right? We talk about Hakma, we talk about Gibera, or even Netzach as Venus. The positive pole, the positive pole, the masculine pole, is always the giver of the stimulus. This is a clue for where to start. But it's never the producer of the result. That's what the womb is for. The womb receives the stimulus and produces the result. So that's your masculine and your feminine dealing with the spiritual energies. It's not about a body part, it's about a function. One produces stimulus and one produces result, right? The Malkuth aspect of Isis is the bright, fertile mother, the goddess of fecundity, thus indicating the end result of the operation of Isis on the physical plane. Think about the Empress card. 77. The situation of Malkuth was the situation. At the foot of the pillar of equilibrium places it in the direct line of the descent of power from Kether, transmuted in Doth, the invisible Sephiroth, and passing on to the planes of form via Tifereth. Oh, that just reminds me. I had a dream, and my spiritual teacher was breaking down to me exactly what Doth was in relation to Kether. I feel the pieces of the dream coming back to me, but no words. Anyway, the situation of Malkuth at the foot of the pillar of equilibrium places it in direct line of descent of power from Kether transmuted in Doth, the invisible Sephirah, and passing on to the planes of form via Tifereth. This is the path of consciousness, whereas the two side pillars are paths of function. But the two side pillars also converge in Malkuth via the 31st and 29th paths. Consequently, everything ends in Malkuth. Everything ends in Malkuth. '78. We who are incarnated in physical bodies are standing in Malkuth, and when we set out upon the way of initiation, our route lies up the 32nd path to Yasod. This path, straight up the central pillar, is called the path of the arrow, which is shot from Kesheth, the bow of promise. It is by this route that the mystic rises upon the plains. The initiate, however, adds to his experience the powers of the side pillars, as well as the realizations of the middle pillar. 79. This aspect of the central pillar is expressed in the Yetziratic text, wherein it states that Malkuth causes an influence to emanate from the Prince of Countenances, the Angel of Kether. 80. The additional titles assigned to Malkuth bring out its attributes clearly. It is regarded as the gate and the mate. These two ideals are, in essence, one idea, for the womb of the mother is the gate of life. It is also the gate of death, for birth into the plane of form is death to higher things. 81. Malkuth is also said to be Kala, the bride of Microprosopus, and Malka, the queen of Melek, the king. This clearly indicates the function in polarity that prevails between the planes of form and the planes of force. The planes of form being the female aspect, polarized and made fertile by the influences of the planes of force. 82. The god name in Malkuth is Adonai Melech, or Adon Haaretz, which titles mean the Lord who is king and the Lord of earth. Herein we clearly see the assertion of the supremacy of the one God in the kingdoms of earth, and every magical operation wherein the operator takes power into his own hands should commence with the invocation of Adonai to indwell his temple, of earth and rule therein, that no force may break from its allegiance to the one. 83. Those who call upon the name of Adonai call upon God made manifest in nature, which is the aspect of God adored by initiates of the nature mysteries, whether Dionysian or Isiac, which concern the different ways of opening the superconsciousness via the subconsciousness. And within that is the secrets of using alcohol to reach higher states of consciousness. A very slippery slope. Wouldn't recommend. It does have its shining moments, though. 84. The archangel is the great angel Sandalphon, who is sometimes called by Kabbalists the dark angel, whereas Metatron, the angel of the countenance, is the bright angel. These two angels are held to stand behind the right and left shoulders of the soul in its hours of crisis. They might be taken to represent good and bad karma. It is in reference to the function of Sandalphon as the dark angel presiding over the karmic debt that Malkuth is called the gate of justice and the gate of tears. It has been said by a wit, with more truth than he knew, that this planet was actually some other planet's hell. It is in very fact the sphere in which karma is normally worked out. Where there is sufficient knowledge, however, karma can be worked out deliberately on the subtler planes. Oh, and this method is one of the forms of spiritual healing. Mm, 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 mm. Oh my. Goodness gracious. Where there is sufficient knowledge, karma can be worked out deliberately on the subtler planes. And this method is one of the forms of spiritual healing. For the culture says I can change karma via meditation. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um J Baldhill says bless you. Thank you. You certainly can change karma through meditation. Meditation itself helps in slowing down the production of karma because you're literally not doing anything physically. So that helps in not compounding karma. But it's the work of non-attachment that happens through meditation. You start to condition yourself to realize non-attachment. And that's what really helps to separate you from the karma that continues to weigh on you. It is, in my understanding, more realistic to separate from your karma than it is to absolve all of it in today's culture. I'm not an expert, but from what I have learned is the process of non-attachment, like real non-attachment, not avoidance and not pretending, but realizing this ain't me and don't none of this belong to me. That separates the mind, the observer, from the karma of the body itself. Because the karma doesn't belong to your consciousness, doesn't belong to your intelligence, to your mind. The karma doesn't belong to that aspect of you. The karma belongs to your body and the cells that make up your body, the elements that make up your body. And what happens is that we believe that we are the body, so we inherit the karma. Like it's that simple. The very same way that your DNA inherits the karma of your ancestors. Your nose looks the way it does because of karma. Your lips, your eyes, your skin color, your propensity to, your propensity to have diseases or whatever. All that comes from DNA. I mean, that's the same exact thing as what karma is. Those are the physical aspects of karma, but there's also energetic karma, which is circumstances and thought processes and the predispositions, all that stuff. But all of that comes up under the umbrella of being attached, the concept of identifying with this flesh, right? If you look in the mirror and you see a male body and you see the culture that you dress in and all that stuff, you say, this is me. And then you walk around in life not looking in the mirror, but you still retain that, oh, I'm this black male and I belong to this culture and I got to do things this way. I'm a real nigga. I'm a street nigga. Like all that stuff, we inherit that, we carry it with us and we perpetuate it. But when you learn that none of this stuff belongs to you, never did, it never will, At minimum, you start to behave differently, but at maximum, you can reside in the seat of the observer and allow the body to do what the body's supposed to do. And all that comes back to what you asked. I can change karma through meditation. Meditation is probably the best way to start that process, because it's through meditation that you really see, whoa, what I actually am is more than this meat suit, this decaying meat suit, right? I done gave you too many chances, baby. Too many chances, baby. Too many chances, baby. Somebody posted something in response to a side comment. I said, there it is. Fair Play NYC says, reach superconsciousness through subconscious from alcohol. Yeah, it does sound wild. But that was in reference to verse 83, where she mentions Dionysus or Dionysiac. And remember, Dionysus is the lord of the wine, lord of the vine. Dionysus and Bacchus. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Ecstasy through alcohol. The Dionysian mysteries involve orgasm and alcohol in a spiritual direction to access the subconscious mind and to use that as a way to get to the superconscious. So what she said was, those who call upon the name of Adonai call upon God made manifest in nature, which is the aspect of God adored by initiates of the nature mysteries, whether Dionysian or Dionysiac, which concern the different ways, one of them being through alcohol, one of them being through sex, which concern the different ways of opening super consciousness via subconsciousness. So that's what I was referring to. Fair Play NYC. I done gave you too many chances, baby. Ace says this whole assignment is balance. You have to take care of this vessel, knowing it's not what you are. Your vessel, your meat suit exists within you, within your consciousness, not the other way around. It's a part of you. Pork Hill says currently drawing characters using wines right now. Nice, nice. All right, we're almost to the end of this particular chapter. Then we've got to jump into the dark side for a little bit. Too many chances, baby. 85. The order of angels assigned to Malkuth are the Ashim, the souls of fire, or fiery particles, of which Madame Blavatsky says some very interesting things. A soul of fire is in actual fact the consciousness of an atom. The Ashim, therefore, represent the natural consciousness of dense matter. It is these which bestow on it its characteristics. It is these fiery lives, these infinitesimal electrical charges, which are forever weaving backwards and forwards with tremendous activity in the background of matter and form its basis. Everything that we know as matter builds up on this groundwork. It is with the help of these fiery lives that certain types of magic are worked. There are but few who can work such magic. For the denser the plane to be manipulated, the greater must be the power of the magus who commands it. levels to this. There's levels to it. For other culture says, man, I work in sales, and I'm telling you, this stuff is like a cheat code. Trust me, I am aware of that. And the very thing that I'm talking about, detached or having non-attachment from, right? Non-attachment from this sense of identity, this sense of culture, this sense of body, right? And all the things that come with being a human. Non-attachment from all of that is what spiritual seekers hopefully will attain, because that's where you'll find the truth. But the fact is, the general public go in the opposite direction, and they hope to solidify and anchor and harden their attachment to their physical body. And thus, it's very easy to sell to people who are attached to their body. Because since we identify and attach to our culture and the way that we look and our clothes, when people sell things directed at those aspects, we don't deny them, we don't refuse them, we don't fight them, we just accept them. In other words, if somebody makes shoes that all black people are supposed to wear because you identify yourself as a black person, it's not going to be hard to get you to buy those shoes. So there's many benefits to understanding this aspect of non-attachment. It helps so that you don't get manipulated so easily, because we're all manipulated by our attachments. We are manipulated by our attachments, whether it's attachment to yourself and your identity or an attachment to your children, but mostly it's attachments to your undone shadow work. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The general peace. Jojo says currently reading The Wine and Wilby Weinberg, Florence. It's a book on Dionysus. Nice, nice. Elah says Dionysus has a lot to do with Capricorn, Pan 2, the sea goat. Jojo says, I say to Brother Panic. Architect Dad MD says, so on the dark path, you deify the ego. I would certainly call it a dark path if that is the goal. I would certainly call it a dark path if ego deification is the goal. No matter how you slice it, the ego is composed of the elements. Eric Calvo, peace and greetings. Nyambura Wanjiru, peace and welcome. 86. The mundane chakra of Malkuth is the sphere of the elements. These we have already considered in such detail as is possible in these pages. 87. The spiritual experience of Malkuth is the vision of the holy guardian angel. Now, this angel, which according to the Kabbalists is assigned to each soul at birth and companions him till death, when it takes him into its keeping and presents him before the face of God for judgment, is in actuality the higher self of each one of us, which builds up around the divine spark that is the nucleus of the soul and endures for an evolution, sending down a process into matter at each incarnation to form the basis of the new personality. Ooh, there's a lot hidden in that sentence. There's a lot hidden and I just caught it, and I'm going to highlight it. The higher self. What's the higher self do? It builds up around the divine spark that is the nucleus of the soul, and it endures for an evolution. Sending down what? It sends down a process into matter. That's like sending a program into a computer, right? It's like sending an app into a phone. The higher self sends down a process into matter. You call it your personality, your ego, as somebody mentioned. Sends a process down into matter at each incarnation to form the basis of the new personality. That's all you are. That's all we are. A process, a program, but that's not really you. That's a piece of you. That's a piece of the higher self for right now. This is today's costume. This is today's outfit. Today's underwear. That's all this self is. Today's uniform. Star Lion. Peace, peace. Ace says the children attachment is a doozy. I popped one out after saying I wasn't going to have any. LOL. Yeah. Ace says one thing I do to keep things into perspective is rarely ever take pics of the princess, even though she's gorgeous. It really frees up my phone storage. LOL. It's not necessary to have pics of someone. Yes. And that's a lesson to learn. Very difficult to learn. But I agree with you. I agree with you. Sentimentality and attachment. Same word. Clarice says the higher self evolving before the incarnation is real. Hmm. Ralts. Peace, peace. The general says we are in this world, but truly not of it. Right, right. Cool stuff. 88. When the higher self and the lower self become united through the complete absorption of the lower by the higher, true adepthood is gained. This is the great initiation, right? We talked about initiation before. This right here is the great initiation, the lesser divine union. It is the supreme experience of the incarnate soul. And when this takes place, it is freed from any compulsion to rebirth into the prison house of flesh. Prison house. Man, you speaking my language right now, Miss Dion Fortune. I'm going to read it again. It is the supreme experience of the incarnate soul. And when this takes place, guess what? It is freed from any compulsion to rebirth into the prison house of flesh. That's on my menu. That's what I'm talking about. Damn all that other shit that y'all talking about. That's what I want. Check, please. Let me get mine to go. Put it on my tab. Wrap it up. Can I get a to go box? Right? Y'all can have the dog and pony show. You can have the circus and all the monkeys in it. I have served my time. It reminds me of, when people are leaving the military, right? They're so happy because they served their time. They done put in their 4 years, their 8 years, and they're ready to get on out. Loosen up that uniform a bit. You might let some of that facial hair grow just a little bit. You might not exercise as hard because it's almost time to go. Oh, when the saints, oh, when the saints, oh, when the saints go marching in. How I want to be in that number. Freed from any compulsion to rebirth into the prison house of flesh. Thenceforth, it is free to go on up the plains and enter into its rest, or, if it so elects, to remain within the earth sphere and function as a master. You know about that. I might keep on going. Function as a master. Listen, I might keep going past that checkpoint. I might have to keep on going past that checkpoint. 89. This then is the spiritual experience which is assigned to Malkuth, the bringing down of the Godhead into manhood, just as the spiritual experience of Tifereth is the taking up of manhood into Godhead. 90. The especial virtue of Malkuth is said to be discrimination. Discrimination. And see, Qabalah and Samkhya agree on this. That first skill that must be mastered, that first superpower on the path, is discrimination. Do you know somebody that doesn't have a good sense of discrimination? You know somebody who keeps making decisions that are not always useful and appropriate? And how it constantly leads them into situations that they have to get out of? Mastering discrimination is the first superpower on this path. So don't worry about astral projection and Travis, how come I can't really see angels and demons? Don't worry about that stuff. Let's worry about discrimination. Let's get that down first. And we can talk about the other stuff. The special virtue of Malkuth is said to be discrimination. This idea is further carried out in the curious symbolism of the ancients, which declared the correspondence in the microcosm to be with the anus. Oh, I didn't expect that word to pop up just then. Whatever in life is effete has to be excreted. And the macrocosmic excretion is into the cliphotic spheres. That's why I call the cliphoth the cosmic porta potty, right? It's nothing but doo doo in there, boy. I gotta find that clip. So whatever in life is effete has to be excreted, and the macrocosmic excretion is into the cliphoth, into the cliphotic spheres. Well, Trev, how do I get to the clip? How do I work with the clip? How do I? You see what I'm saying? What's the best way to get to the clip off, Trev? You know? I mean, everything has its use and its purpose. But the macrocosmic excretion is into the cliphotic spheres, which depend below Malkuth. Whence the cosmic excretia means shit, obviously. Whence the cosmic excretia cannot return to the planes of organized form until they find balance in equilibrium. There is, therefore, in the cliphotic world, a sphere which is not hell. Cliphoth is not hell, right? It's a sphere which is not hell, but purgatory. It is a reservoir of disorganized force emanated from broken up forms, cast out from evolution. It is chaos upon a lower arc, right? So as you see this, right, as you read this, coming from somebody who absolutely knows what she's talking about, not somebody who just learned about these words 2 years ago and has a YouTube channel, right? Now that you see this, just think about whenever you hear chaos, clip off, dark side. I'm about to clip off. I work with clip off. Everybody does what they do, you know. I'm not really talking shit, but I guess literally I'm talking shit because excretia, but got to have some kind of understanding of what you're dealing with here. I call the clip off the cosmic porta potty. There is use for it, just like there is use for your toilet. My toilet has a completely glittery lid, but it still has the same purpose. You can put lipstick on a pig, but guess what? Everything has its function. It's not this cool dark side playground that everyone tries to make it out to be. But I tell you what, the subconscious mind is connected to this clip off, and there are many things that can be sorted through and sorted out to create what she called here equilibrium. 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 So discernment. Nothing but doo-doo in there, boy. Yeah, Jay Baldhill says, I'm hesitant to bring that stuff up because as much as I want to try to guide people correctly, I don't have to tell you what it's mostly going to be. Right. It is the human condition, man. Only a select few kind of make it past the personality blockages because that's what it is. Right. Shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. Zero says, you can bring something from the clip off to renewal, Trav? Absolutely. Absolutely. There is value in the clip off, but the thing is, you have to go in there knowing that, right? You have to go, just like, say, for example, there is a, what do you call the place where a bunch of trash goes? A dump? I don't know. Like, there's there's a piece of land out there that has a bunch of trash and like broke down cars and fridges and all that stuff. Well, let's say, for example, you're somebody who takes copper and you can repurpose it and sell it and make a bunch of money. Well, you can go out to that garbage dump, landfill. Thank you, Larice. You go out to that landfill and you can go scour for the copper and get all the copper. And hell, you might walk out of there with thousands of dollars. But you went in there knowing what you were coming out with. But if you just, imagine just going into a landfill, right? With no intention, with no purpose, with no nothing. You just in there because you heard it was cool. Hell, you might walk out sick. You might cut yourself and get tinnitus and sepsis and who knows what. So yeah, to answer your question, there is value, but like that's what I'm saying. You got to know what you're doing. It's not value in it just because it's about the intent. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like anything is evil and bad or good. It's just like the human body, right? You can make a beautiful bathroom and it looks great, but it still serves the same purpose. Okay, where we at? Wobbly, 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 wobbly. When the light hit the ice, it twinkled and glistened. Larissa says, also, one thing at a time, sometimes shadow work is clip off enough, to be honest. Right, right. I mean, hell, that's where your shadow is also. It bridges right upon that borderland. You're getting closer and closer to that territory. Prison house. All right. The Cliffotic world, a sphere which is not hell but purgatory. It is a reservoir of disorganized force emanated from broken up forms cast out from evolution. It is chaos upon a lower arc. It ain't even higher chaos, it's lower chaos. It is from this reservoir of force that is accustomed to form and therefore organizes readily that the shells or imperfect entities build up their vehicles. It is also said to be drawn upon for the lower types of magic of an evil kind. The tendency of such forces as are available in the qliphothic sphere must always be to assume once more such forms as they were accustomed to before they were disintegrated and reduced to their primal state. As these forms were at least out of date, if not actively evil, it naturally follows that this matter of chaos is not a desirable substance to work with, and had best be left there till its purification is complete and it has filtered back through the sphere of earth by the natural channels and had been drawn once again into the stream of evolution. It is for this reason that all the underworld cults and the evocation of the departed are undesirable for the forms the manifesting entities assume must be built in part, at least, of this substance of chaos. She said a lot there. But notice how when things go into the chaos, the clip-off, they stay there and they're disintegrated and they break down to their raw elements until they're ready to come back, purified in completely different ways. However, because that state of existence is so dense, it's even denser than this world we live in, the forms that they once had are easily re-resurrectable. Resurrectable, I guess, is sufficient. Why re-resurrect? Resurrect already has re in it. Anyways, hmm. She doesn't recommend necromancy and this type of work here. 91. It is the especial virtue of Malkuth, then, to act as a kind of cosmic filter, casting out the effect and preserving that which still retains its usefulness. 92. The characteristic vices of the functioning of Malkuth are said to be avarice and inertia. It is easy to see how the stability of Malkuth can be overdone, and so give rise to sluggishness and inertia. The concept of avarice, though not so obvious upon the surface, soon yields its significance to investigation. For the over retentiveness of avarice is a kind of spiritual costiveness, the exact opposite of the discrimination, which rejects the excreta of life through the cosmic anus into the cosmic cesspool of the klipoth. It is interesting to note that Freud declares that the miser is invariably constipated and associates the dream of money with feces. Earth needs the other elements to move creation for sure. Zero says the Klipoth is that past side of the cosmic donut, cosmic donut, in stalking the wild pendulum. The past side, yes, like Doctor Strange doing that time spell on that apple. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She mentions up here as these forms were at least out of date, if not actively evil. Remember, she talked about these different types of evil, and evil's not necessarily a person that we disagree with. Oh, they're evil because I don't like what they're doing. She talks about how evil can be something that is out of place or out of time. For example, in the past, it was a great idea to take someone who was a thief if they stole something and chopped off their hand. Boom, that was a great idea back then. But today, that's evil. You're not going to see them take a thief and chop their hand off in the United States. That's out of time. That's out of place. I think they still do that in some countries in Africa, but that's not the United States, right? So out of place and out of time is considered evil. Now back then it was good. Today it's not. Over there it's good, but over here it's not. That type of thing is also found in the clip off. Things that are no longer useful and appropriate for right now, for today. People aren't riding around with horses and pistols having shootouts at, well, the high noon style shootout where they walk 10 paces and turn around and shoot each other. That's out of place and out of time. They don't do that now. I mean, they still shoot each other in the streets, but even still, that's kind of out of place. Larissa says, "Wait, what? That last line again, please." Okay, so let's go back to that last line, right? And I have to go back 2 lines actually. Fuck it, the whole verse. The characteristic vices of the functioning of Malkuth are said to be avarice and inertia. It is easy to see how the stability of Malkuth can be overdone, right? Easy to see how the stability, think about stability, cohesiveness, it's not moving, it's not budging, it's just one solid piece, earth. It's easy to see how the stability of Malkuth can be overdone, and so give rise to sluggishness and inertia, not wanting to move, not wanting to change, not wanting to do anything, right? Tamasic. The concept of avarice, though not so obvious upon the surface, soon yields its significance to investigation. For the over retentiveness of avarice, right? Over retentive, not moving. It is a kind of spiritual costiveness. It's a kind of spiritual constipation. The exact opposite of the discrimination, right? So we think about discrimination. Discrimination is you drawing the line, you accepting this, you rejecting that, right? I accept this, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, right? That's what your discrimination is. Your discrimination is called viveka in Sanskrit because it's a sharp double-edged sword that allows you to slice between what's useful and appropriate and what's not useful and not appropriate. So the exact opposite of the discrimination, which rejects the excreta of life through the cosmic anus into the cosmic cesspool of the clipoth, right? So that same discrimination allows you to reject what is useless and inappropriate out of Malkuth into the clipoth. By the way, Malkuth is the cosmic anus. So would that make us? Never mind. It is interesting to note that Freud declares that the miser, right? The miser, the old person with a bunch of money who doesn't want to spend anything, like Scrooge McDuck. The miser is invariably constipated and associates the dream of money with the dream of feces. The dream of money with feces. So if we got the Scrooge McDuck type character, or what's that Christmas rich guy? Yeah, that was Scrooge too, right? He's got all this money and he's not letting go of a penny and he's dreaming of money. That's a dream of constipation. But this is according to Freud. That's what Freud said. So that's what that last line was. Jay Baldale says, if most people aren't supposed to touch magic in general, and you've somehow found your way into that group, what makes you think you also belong to the very small number of people who can work that stuff without wrecking yourself and possibly others, respectively? but start getting demons to get you a job over Instagram. Yeah, man. Kashigi says this might be a stupid question, but does Malkuth have its equivalent of Ein Sof and Ein Sof R? For instance, of the clip-off is upside down, the tree of life, then what's the supernal triad? So, you can think of the clip-off as the tree upside down. I don't really think of it that way. You can think of the clip-off as behind the tree, like a shadow. That's another way to think of it. And also, the triple blackness, the Ein Sofar, there are some diagrams that show those three lines. Um, as you see here, there's some diagrams that show those three lines above Kether, above all the Sephiroth. Because the Ein Sofar, the triple blackness, is the springboard. It is the chalkboard, right? That the tree of life is actually drawn upon. So the triple blackness is the chalkboard. The tree of life is the chalk drawn tree. But let's imagine that it's like 3D. So the shadow cast on that tree that is reflected on that chalkboard, that's the clip off. And we can kind of see like the tree is moving towards you, but it's leaving a trail. And that trail is what is moved into the clip off. Kind of like how we go through time and we used to use cassette tapes and then CDs, and then MP3s and then YouTube or whatever. Cassette tapes have now moved into the clip off. CDs have now moved into the clip off. So the tree is also moving, and there's a trail behind it of stuff that's no longer useful and appropriate. And it gets disintegrated, and eventually it will come back in another form. But the Ein Sofar is like the actual chalkboard that this is all drawn upon. It's the paper, it's the medium. You said, for instance, it's the upside down tree of the what is the supernal. So yeah, even the clip off, like I said, it's the shadow of all the individual Sephiroth. So the upper triad does itself reflect, or I should say, has a cast a shadow, which is the clip off of Kether, the clip off of Binah, the clip off of Hakma. I mean, just think about it, right? Hakma is continually spurting out energy in life creation. But just like a tree drops a million acorns, all those acorns don't become trees. Just like most human beings cast off their seeds, most of those seeds that humans cast off do not become children, right? The woman's eggs come out, and we all know what gods do. Most of those seeds don't become anything. So, likewise, with Hakma, that energy that's constantly being spurted out into existence, most of it falls into the clip off because it never became anything. It becomes these ghosts. That's the clip off of Hakma. And then Bina, right? We could again think about the menses and those eggs that come out and bleed. Bina would be these forms, these potentials that never actually became anything. So the clip off, it's the overflow, the excess, the excretia of all existence. I hope that answers your question. Fat Tony says, so you can take the person out the clip off, but you can't take the clip off of the person. Facts. Man. Yeah, yeah. Jojo says like getting slapped with a glove. Imagine that today, out of place, out of right. So that would be considered evil according to Dion Fortune. Evil's not necessarily, oh, I don't like what Hitler did. It's not something you disagree with. Evil is something that is out of place and out of time. Zero says, I want to share my experience yesterday with that with a literal description of Tamasic reality. Man, I even get Tina, please where everything appear as negative type of photos like white and black. Okay, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that's it. Dreaming of stagnation. Wraith 636 says, "Is this indicating that all rich people are constipated?" Well, there might be a correlation, right? You gotta. Obviously, people who are very wealthy do something different than what most people do. We can absolutely say that with certainty. So who knows? If we knew what those things were that they were doing, I'm sure a lot of us would be doing them. If you knew that you had to be constipated to be a billionaire, would you start constipating yourself for the rest of your life? Ace says, "Yo, several downloads tonight, in addition to today's gems. In terms of one of my main challenges, motherhood. Ask and you shall receive." Dadgum, a lot of comments appeared. Who's haters? Who's hell? Unguard. All right, I think I'm all caught up on comments. Brother Shem L, peace and welcome. A smack of a glove. That's funny. I challenge you to a duel. Nah, we ain't making it that far, Playboy. It ain't going down like that, Playboy. 93. 93, 93. One of the most important things we have to do before we can rise out of the limitations of life in Malkuth and breathe a wider air is to learn how to let go, how to sacrifice the lesser to the greater, and so buy the pearl of great price. Imagine, right? We continue to reincarnate and reintroduce and remanifest our problems because we simply don't let them go. Telling you that non-attachment is a soul saver. Non-attachment. Let it go. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You're not your shortcomings. You're not what anybody else said you are. You damn near aren't anything except what you say you are. I mean, honestly, it might be hard to believe, but I don't go throughout my day believing that I am something specific. That might not sound realistic, but most of the time I am not thinking about what I am. I don't see myself as anything specific. Only when there's something that I need to do, then I assume that role, that identity. But when I'm not doing anything specific, like most of the day, I don't think, oh, I am this. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe not. It only occurs to me when it has to, or whenever I say that it has to, really. And geez Louise, there is no stress and no burdens living that way. It's only when you have to assume a role and an identity that things start to get, you start to feel that heaviness of, okay, like assuming an identity to me is like a job. You do it for a purpose and you let that shit go. Hey, that's pretty decent. Kashigi says, so shadow work on the clip off is shadow work on that which you hold on to, which is out of place, out of time. You're working on letting that go. Yeah, that's a great um, observation. Yes, I would say 100% to that. I am Ku says, in other words, you only put on the mask when needed. Right. And most of the time, the mask is not on. I wear all black, right? And when I look in the mirror at nighttime, I just see my face. But when I'm not looking in the mirror, my face is not there. I like to be a black ghost. The games Kabbalists play, right? Fat Tony says shit get better when you let go. Facts. Facts. All right, so we are nearing the conclusion. Let's go ahead and reach it. Actually, I'm gonna keep it real. I've got to go visit my glittery toilet. I'll be right back. 5 minute break. Man, those kittens have it so lucky. They just sit there and sleep all day, drink milk. Babies, man, babies have to be like, for the most part, the luckiest creatures, but also the most doomed, bro, because you're so vulnerable. You're at the mercy of your surroundings, and you can't defend yourself. You can't even feed yourself. You can't clean yourself. But I mean, I guess well taken care of babies are probably the best state to exist in. But the thing is, that state does not last long. That shit does not last long. That's like the trap, right? That's the trick. We all think that babies are so cute and we love them so much and we can't wait to have one. And they are, but then they grow up. And perhaps when we're non existent and we see the allure of humanity and it looks so wonderful and so beautiful, and then we get here and we're like, oh shit. You mean us? You mean we still haven't figured out taxes and bills and heartbreak and chemical addiction to sex and everything else? Goodness gracious. Anyways, anyways, 90. We're still on 93. Yeah, we're still on 93. All right, so one of the most important things we have to do before we can rise out of the limitations of life in Malcuth and breathe a wider air is to learn how to let it go. Learn how to let go, how to sacrifice the lesser to the greater, and so buy the pearl of great price. It is discrimination which enables us to know which is the lesser value that has to be given up in order to obtain the greater, for there is no gain without sacrifice. What we do not realize is that every sacrifice should yield a substantial profit in treasure laid up in heaven, whether neither moth nor dust do corrupt. Bible verse. Otherwise, it is mere useless waste. No gain without sacrifice. No gain without sacrifice. Learn to let go. You can't take none of the stuff with you. Look what you said. What we do not realize is that every sacrifice should yield a substantial profit in treasure where? Laid up in heaven, where neither moth nor rust do corrupt. Otherwise, it is mere useless waste. Every sacrifice we do really should be towards spiritual gain. And I get it, right? We all get it. You know, you're supposed to do rituals for money, for love and sex, and for healthy body. You're supposed to do all that stuff, right? And anybody who comes in here, oh, I don't do magic for personal gain. You lying to yourself because I know better than that. We all start out like that. That's how you test it. You're supposed to test it. That's why there are 72 spirits of the Goetia. You have spirits to test that shit out, but you're not supposed to stay there, right? You're not supposed to stay there. Eventually, you start realizing, okay, none of this matters, not really. Well, then what does matter, right? And you keep doing that inner search, right? You do that inner search and you realize, okay, I need to be figuring out what's this business with my soul and my karma, I guess, and I don't know what's going to happen after I die. I need to be dealing with that stuff. And so your rituals and your sacrifices need to be towards that direction because what you get out of that stays on your record, right? Doesn't fade away. All the stuff that I've manifested, eventually it fades away. It gets old, right? Everything that you manifest that is not spiritual eventually breaks down. The money gets spent. The lover leaves. The health comes and goes, right? But the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding, the eyes being opened don't close back again, right? Red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish, my brother. See, we scrutinize and extrapolate what we attempt to complicate, or should I say, pontificate, the elusive insight of the astral light to combobulate the inner light, my brother. Amen. Can I get a witness? Check. Gems. 100 emojis. Facts. Gems. Fire emoji. 100 emoji. Brother. See, y'all young folks got it all twisted. corrupted by the white man. Sorry, brother, I'm out of time, and my bacon is smelling fine. Bacon smelling fine, brother. Good coffee. I'm out of time, and my bacon smelling fine. Right, talking all that feel good stuff that tickles the brain. All right, see, you laughing zero, but it's some people that's doing that on a regular basis, and they getting facts, gems, 100 emojis, donations. It's some people out there really doing it. If you guys ever see somebody doing a great job at that, please send that video my way. See, what the Camites understood is that your melanin, the black of your skin, conducts cliphotic energies and recombobulates the circumcision of the prostitution to emphasize or realize the constipation of Malkuth. See, the white man don't tell you that. The white man wants you to believe that it's your job to cook bacon, eggs, and cheese. All right, back to it. 94. Did we ever find out who that white man was? Is it the rotating president, or was it like an official white man that was holding us down? 94. We have already noted one of the correspondences assigned to Malkuth in the microcosm. It is also said, however, that Malkuth corresponds to the feet of the divine man. And here's a tidbit about that, right? Malkuth corresponds to the anus and the feet. How can it be both? Well, there's all that leg in between, right? Well, the thing is, it also corresponds with Muladhara, the root chakra, the anus and the feet. In the East, they sat down to meditate. In the West, we mostly stand up and do our rituals. But see, it's the sitting down and the standing. Those are the two things that come into contact with the earth and root and ground us to Malkuth itself. So that's a big reason why the anus and the feet are correspondences with Muladhara and Malkuth. What if the white man was the friends we made along the way? Facts. Gems. Emoji. 100% emojis. Fire emojis. So look, we've already noted one of the correspondences assigned to Malkuth in the microcosm, the anus. It is also said, however, that Malkuth corresponds to the feet of the divine man. Here again, we have an important concept. For unless the feet are firmly planted on Mother Earth, no stability is possible. There are altogether too many top-heavy mystics who like to think that the divine man ends at the neck like a cherub and give no place to the generative organs of Yesod or the anus of Malkuth. They need to learn the lesson that the heavenly dream taught to St. Peter that nothing which God made is unclean. What's that? Nothing which God made is unclean unless we allow it to become so. I love the way that she said that and taught with Shooty. None of this is unclean or corrupt. It is our beliefs that make it so. We should recognize the divine life in all its functions and so bring the manhood up into Godhead and sanctify it. Cleanliness is next to godliness, especially internal cleanliness. If we evade and avoid a thing, how are we to keep it clean and wholesome? That's a good question. The taboos of a primitive people have been altogether overdone in our civilized life, with disastrous consequences to the health and wholesomeness of humanity. Ilah says Yasad and Malkuth work together. Absolutely. Wraith636 says, I know too many content creators who talk just like that. Jailhouse plebiscite talk. I gotta find it, man. I gotta find it. Peace out, y'all, Micah. Have a good night. Have a good night. 95. The symbols of Malkuth are the altar of the double cube and the equal armed cross, or cross of the elements. 96. The altar of the double cube is symbolic of the Hermetic maxim, as above, so below, and teaches that what is visible is the reflection of what is invisible and corresponds with it exactly. This cubical altar is the altar of the mysteries. 1111. Where's my 1111 folks at? I'm looking up thinking it's 1030. So, as above, so below, which means that which is visible is the reflection of that which is invisible. And it corresponds with that exactly, the double cube. This cubical altar is the altar of the mysteries, in contradistinction to the table altar, which is the altar of the church. For the table altar stands in the east, but the cubical altar stands in the center. It is said to be in proper proportion when it is the height of the navel of a 6 foot man, and its the breadth and depth are half its height. I had that double cube altar for the longest time. Um, let's see, from 2017 to 2019. Yeah, two different places that I lived. I had that double cube altar in the center of my living room. The center of my living room. I was doing this stuff to the T. I had to make sure. I stopped doing that around 2020 or so. Around the time when the Great Plague hit. Well, actually, Eternal says, didn't someone freak out because of it? I believe so, man. I don't remember the specific story, but I believe so. It don't take much to freak these folks out. It does not take much. 97. The equal armed cross, or cross of the elements, represents the four elements in balanced equilibrium, which is the perfection of Malkuth. It is represented on the tree by the division of Malkuth into four quarters, colored citrine, olive, russet, and black, with the citrine towards Yasad and the black towards the Clipoth, the olive towards Netzach, and the russet towards Hod. These are the reflections of the three pillars and the Cliphotic sphere, dulled and tempered by the veil of earth. Nice. So that explains it, right? Why well, we can just look at the cover, right? That explains why you see it this way. The four influences that create Malkuth. We got the what is it, citrine? The citrine at the top, and that's because of Tifereth and Yesod, but it's dulled in Malkuth. We've got the olive because of the green of Netzach. We've got the russet because of the red and orange of the left-hand pillar. And then we've got the black down here because of the clip-off. That explains why you've got these four colors on Malkuth, in case you didn't know. And also, if you didn't realize it, you've got this rainbow around Yesod because all of the other spheres filter down into Yesod. Another thing to consider is when you add blue and yellow, you get green. When you add red and yellow, you get orange. All right. Many, many patterns on the tree. Party like a rock. Party like Barack. Ilah says Zaire and Pin, the small face of God. Totally, dude. Party like Barack. American people. So, 98. Thus are all things summed up in Malkuth, though seen in a glass darkly by reflection and not face to face. Another Bible verse. 99. Tarot cards. You know what time it is when she starts to mention the tarot cards. Elah says the small face of God is made up of the emotional Sephirah attributes of Chesed, blue, Givurah, red, Tifereth, yellow, Netzach, green, Hod, orange, and Yesod, violet. So you know when she starts talking about these tarot cards, we have reached the end of the chapter. Y'all, we're at Malkuth. So that means we've gone down the tree, reaching the end of this text. I have an idea of what text to go through next. I think it's time. I think we've been through the tree, and it's time to cover something that I haven't really covered on this channel in relation to the tree. Totally, dude. So, 99, the four tarot cards, which yield curious results when subjected to meditation in the light of what we know about Malkuth. The Ten of Wands is called the Lord of Oppression. The Lord of Oppression. The Ten of Cups is called Perfected Success. The Ten of Swords, the Lord of Ruin. And the Ten of Pentacles, the Lord of Wealth. As we've already seen, it is in Malkuth that spiritual forces come to their fulfillment on the plane of form. And by taking these completed forms and sacrificing them, we can translate them back into spiritual potencies. There we go. J. Bald Hill says, was wanting to read that anyway. Yeah, I think it's a natural next choice. We can all learn something at the same time. Party like Barack. 101. These four tarot cards, it will be observed, are alternately good and bad in their significance. Remember that? Oppression, success, ruin, and then wealth. Good, bad, good, bad. Good, bad, good, bad. Let's look into that just a little bit. It will be observed they're alternately good and bad in their significance. In fact, the Ten of Swords is said to be the worst card in the pack to turn up in divination. She said this is the worst card in the pack. That's not just murder, that is hate. There is a curious alchemical doctrine which has a bearing on this point. It is taught that the signs of the planets are compounded out of three symbols: the solar disk, the lunar crescent, and the cross of corrosion or sacrifice. If you've never seen that before, it's a pretty interesting thing to see. All of the signs of the planets are made out of three symbols: a circle, a crescent, and a cross. All of them. I'd show you here, but I'm not going to. But I mean, look, you've got the moon, which is the crescent. You've got the sun, which is the circle. You got the earth, which is the cross within the circle. You got Mars, which is the circle with a cross coming out of it. You got Jupiter, which is the crescent on top of a cross. Saturn, which is the same thing. And even I think Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Well, not Pluto, but Pluto doesn't count. It is taught that the signs of the planets are compounded out of three symbols: the solar disk, the lunar crescent, and the cross of corrosion or sacrifice. And these symbols, rightly interpreted, give the key to the alchemical nature of the planet and its practical use in the great work of transmutation. For instance, Mars, in whose symbol the cross surmounts the circle, it is said to the to be outwardly corrosive, but inwardly solar. Jai Jagopal, peace and greetings. Venus, in which the circle surmounts the cross, is said to be outwardly solar, but inwardly corrosive. Or, in the words of scripture, sweet in the mouth, but in the belly, bitter. 102. In these four tarot tins, the same principle is seen to prevail. Each card represents the working of a certain type of spiritual force on the plane of dense matter. The most spiritual of these cards, the Ten of the Suit, whose ace is said to be the root of the powers of fire, she's talking about this one. The most spiritual of these 10 cards is called the Lord of Oppression. This teaches us that the higher spiritual forces are apt to be outwardly corrosive when operating upon the plane of matter. Outwardly corrosive when operating on the plane of matter. The powers of fire, at their highest potency in the Ten of Wands, are a refining fire. Refining fire. As gold is tried in the furnace, so the heart must be tried by pain. Jai Jagopal. For sure. Will you send me the information? "103. On the other hand, all the symbolism of the suit of cups or chalices shows the Venusian influence very clearly. It is in this suit we find the lords of pleasure, material happiness, and abundance. But we also find the lords of illusory success, abandoned success, and loss in pleasure, which shows clearly that this suit, though outwardly solar, is inwardly corrosive. Brother Chanel says, read that again, Trav. Okay, 103. On the other hand, all the symbolism of the suit of cups or chalices shows the Venusian influence very clearly. It is in this suit that we find the lords of pleasure, material happiness, and abundance. But we also find the lords of illusory success, abandoned success, and loss of pleasure, which shows clearly that this suit, though outwardly solar, is inwardly corrosive. And if you didn't know, of course, she's talking about the different cards in the suit of cups. You know, like illusory success is like the seven of cups, abandoned success, that's like the five of cups, loss and pleasure, I think that's the four of cups. The lord of perfected success, that's the ten of cups. Drama, drama, drama. Elisha Eternal says might be eight of cups. Yeah, one of them was eight of cups. I was going off the top, but you know what I'm saying. One of the cups. 104. Swords again. Swords again are under the Martian influence, and the Lord of Ruin shows the total sacrifice of all material things. So is that what it feels like when you finally give up everything? Prakriti is pissed? Well, not actually. Prakriti does not feel or think anything. But in Pentacles, Earth of Earth, and that's what this card would be, Earth of Earth, the position is again reversed. And we find that the Ten of Pentacles is the Lord of Wealth. Hell yeah. 106. It will be seen, therefore, that those cards, which are of suits primarily spiritual in nature, are outwardly corrosive on the physical plane. And those cards of suits that are primarily material in nature are outwardly solar or beneficial on the material plane. This teaches a very useful lesson and gives a very important key when used in those systems of divination, which are designed to give discernment of the spiritual influences operating in a case. So, in other words, it sounds like what she's saying here is that when we're dealing with these tens, which relate to Malkuth, which relate to manifestation and abundance, if we're in a plane that is mostly spiritual, we're dealing with something that might be a bit difficult, right? Because it seems that the spiritual and the material can often be at odds with each other. But when we're dealing with a plane that is material, it seems like it is in alignment with the processes of Malkuth. Mostly spiritual, so it seems to be difficult here. Mostly material, so things seem to flow well. Framestar Films says, quick question. So do the aces correspond to the tens in the same way as the elements from Kether to Malkuth, as was mentioned earlier in regards to positive and negative fire, etc.? Let's see if I understand your question properly. So do the aces correspond to the tens in the same way as the elements from Kether to Malkuth? So you're talking about, yeah, positive fire, negative air. Hmm. Well, I'm not going to front frame star. I'm having a bit of a challenge wrapping my head around the question, but I do find it helpful to think of fire as unconditioned force and air as conditioned force, water as unconditioned form, and earth as conditioned form. Okay, so the Ace of Cups would be negative or positive to Ten of Pentacles. Hmm. Yeah, man. I ain't gonna front with you. I'm not sure how to give the best answer on that. And I think it's mostly due to wordplay, the wordplay of it all. Larice asks, "What are your pronouns, Travis?" I mean, I don't really, you know, I don't really do that. But I was born with a penis, so we will go with he, him. That's the way that I put it. But yeah, I don't really, invest in that whole thing. To be honest with you. 107. All mundane affairs rise and fall like the waves of the sea, crest following trawl, and trawl following quest in rhythmical progression. Therefore, when any mundane condition is at either its zenith or nadir, we know that a change of tide is to be expected in the near future. This knowledge is embodied in many popular sayings, such as, "It's a long lane that has no turning, and the darkest hour is before the dawn." Harriman, the great American millionaire, said that he made his fortune by always buying on a falling market and selling on a rising one, which is the exact opposite to what everyone else tries to do. Nevertheless, it is a far sighted proceeding, for a boom always topples over into a depression, and a depression issues forth into a boom. This has happened so often, even within living memory, that one would have thought speculators would have learnt the lessons of history, but they never do. Never do. It was the knowledge of this fact that enabled the Society of Inner Light to be piloted steadily amidst the post war difficulties and come through without having to curtail any of its activities. There are times when it's necessary to be modest in order to be solvent, but there are times when one can launch out boldly despite all outward seeming, because one knows that the tide is rising under one. And I tell you what, I think a lot of it is intuitive. A lot of it's intuitive. I think that when these changes happen, we feel them, but for most of us, we reject that intuition and that feeling, and we go off of logic, right? We say, "Oh, well, everyone else is selling, so I better sell too." Even if your intuition is saying, "Hey, maybe check out something different, maybe try something different." Most of us aren't very confident in our intuition, so we don't trust what it has to say. But I think a lot of what she's describing here is intuitive. Because how many times has something popped off and something happened, and you thought, Damn, I had a feeling about that. I knew, right? I had a feeling about that. More often than not. Honey Be True to You says, I'm sorry, I just jumped in here. Did you say fire is unconditioned and air is conditioned? Air conditioner. In terms of the four elements and their polarities, right? We can say that fire and air would be of a masculine polarity, and we can say that they are force. Water and earth are of the feminine polarity, the negative polarity. We can say that they are form, right? So the difference between the two poles would be that fire is unconditioned force, air is conditioned force. Water is unconditioned form, earth is conditioned form, right? Just and when I say conditioned, we're talking about like unconditioned consciousness, something that has been uh it specified or unspecified, general and specific. Jojo says fire uncontained force, air contained force, water uncontained form, earth is contained form. Just in case y'all missed it. Perfect, right? That's it right there. Perfect. That's it right there. Perfectly. All right. Wait a minute now. Uh oh. And ultimately, it is extremely helpful, obviously, to kind of have your finger on the pulse, right? To have the temperature, to be able to move with these tides, to kind of sense what time it is. A lot of it is observation of your outside surroundings and your environment, but most of it is going to be due to observation of your internal environment because your internal is just as connected to these changes as your external. You'll find that tracking your own patterns and tracing how you feel is going to be connected to the world events and world changes. I mean, obviously, this is why we look at the moon and see what sign it's in. This is why we look at the planets and see where they're at. Yeah, you can look out there and say, oh, I've got Mars in this house and I got a stellium over here and I got this and that. You can do that for sure. But you can also look within and pay attention to the changing weather because astrology is a living, moving thing. The world outside is a living, moving thing. The world on the inside, not just your biological body, but also your thoughts, your feelings, your intuition. These are living and moving things. It's all part of a system. And if you can track your own patterns and your own processes, you will see that they reflect what's happening in the stars. Now, that's not saying that astrology causes you to act a certain way. Astrology is just a reading. It's a reading of what's on the program. It's like if you play a game, like if I play The Sims a lot and I want to go check the home page, they tell you the updates. Hey, this is happening right now. This is the development. This is what we changed. That's kind of what astrology is. It's like a universal update to tell you what's happened, what's changed, where we are. But you notice it if you're playing the game. You see that something's different. These tides that go up and they go down. But here's the thing: it's never really anything new. The same stuff keeps happening just in different combination. So if you learn all the different combinations and the different patterns, you'll see what's coming up next. You'll see what you just came out of. And if you learn your own patterns, if you start there, that's the best way to, the most thorough way to do it. What do you do on a daily basis? What do you think about what do you fantasize about on a daily basis? Is there a correlation to what you're actually seeing in your physical world? 108. These four cards then give a very true insight into the nature of the operation of forces in Malkuth. And when they turn up in a divination, one always prepares for the outward gold to turn to corrosion, and the outward corrosion to turn to gold sooner or later. And one takes in or spreads one's sails accordingly. Oh, final verse. Final verse. All right, so here we go. 109. This is the true use of divination. And Malcuth is the sphere of divination. This is the true use of divination, to enable one to discern the spiritual forces concerned in any happening and act accordingly. Of what use, then, is the divination performed by one who has not spiritual discernment? Imagine that. And can one expect to find spiritual discernment in the hack occultist who gives so much for half a crown and so much for 10 shillings? Spiritual things are not done in this way. Among the ancients, divination was a religious rite, and so it should be among us, if it is not to bring a trail of bad luck in its wake. Thus concludes the chapter on Malkuth. It only took us 3 tries, but we got it. We got it. All right, so that wraps up tonight's book study. Thank you for joining me here on this Monday evening, right? Hope you're still being as productive and successful as possible this 9 year, right? Or wrapping up the second month. Look at how fast it's going by, man. Always going by. So we're already in March, damn near. It's about to be my birthday. We're already in March, damn near. But that can be a great thing if you are working on your plans, if you are building your future. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what you've been through, what you're going through. You build tomorrow today. So I trust that you are building with intention, with discernment, with scrutiny, right? With discernment, that's the word. GB1676 says Taurus. No, my birthday's in June, Gemini, but I'm just saying, like, it will be June before we know it. But yeah. Build your library of correspondences, always. Keep doing the work, keep organizing your environment in such a way that it speaks to you spiritually, right? Everything you do should be a spiritual practice. Everything that you do, all the items within your environment, right? As much as you have power over it, you might work in a place where you can't really control too many things, or hell, you might live with your parents or a controlling partner where you can't really shift much. What you can shift always is the meaning of something, the meaning of the symbol. So make sure that even though if you might not be in control of your surroundings, make sure that you're the one that's in control of the meaning of these symbols. That's your power. Because you do the magic with the meanings of those symbols. So there shouldn't be anything in your environment with a symbol that doesn't add to you, that is not useful and appropriate. Right? There should not be any symbols in your environment that are not useful and appropriate. Right? Do you see how? And do you see why? Work with what you got. Work with what you got. And if you want to do something, find a teacher and learn how to do it. Stop trying to wing it. Stop trying to figure it out. We are in 2025. There are YouTube videos, there are classes and courses. Find you a teacher, find you a mentor, get there quickly so that you can get to where you're really trying to go. Whether you're trying to invest, make some money, whether it's a new skill, right? Cooking, you want to learn how to do YouTube, you want to learn how to, I don't know, whatever. Find you somebody that knows how to do it and utilize your time wisely. Find that mentor and then utilize them as a solar symbol. See them as coming from Tifereth and watch how that impacts you. That's what I mean. When I say make everything a spiritual practice, I mean everything. All of it. There's not a line between the spiritual stuff you do and then your real life. There's not a line. Everything is your spiritual practice. There's a ritual while you sleep and there's ritual while you wake up. All of it. What I'm saying here, the big point I'm saying here is make sure that you're in control of that. Make sure that you've posted the definitions, the meanings of these symbols. You do that. That's your work here. That's what Malkuth is about. Malkuth, this material plane, yeah, you got all the stuff. You're the one that's responsible for what these symbols mean. Nobody else gives you the meanings. Nobody else gives you the meaning. You can accept them, but ultimately you're the one that places these meanings. All right? All right. Good talk. Good talk. June 16, Travavelli. Illuminati want my mind, soul, and my body. Great people seem to be born on that date. Ace says, Trav said, I don't want to hear no complaining and clueless students this year, y'all. Right. What candle do I use? What demon do I summon? Uh-oh. Evolution in Disguise says 6/16 is my birthday, too. Well, hey, I know you got a message for the people as well. Gemini, make sure that you are honing your craft. I'm talking to you specifically, Evolution in Disguise. Make sure you got a teacher that's teaching you the things that you don't know so that you can get to where you're trying to go faster. Yes, we are brilliant, but nobody's too smart to not accept help. Nobody's too smart to not be taught and not learn something, right? Go get you that teacher. Elisha Eternal has been watching an anime called Cells at Work about the human body. Great for visualizing the microcosm in a fun way if anyone's interested. Cells at Work. It's an anime? Cells at Work. Sage Page. Peace, peace. Welcome, welcome to the end of the recording. All right, y'all. I'm gonna catch me a few rounds on Fortnite. They got this new season. I'm really digging it. Having a good time. They got Sub-Zero on there now. Love it. Sly says June 16, I'll be 3 years sober. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Congratulations and keep it up. Keep it up. Fuck yeah. Cells at Work Code Black. Mike's World says, Trav, will the crypto market rebound soon? Absolutely. It ain't going nowhere. We only just beginning. Brother Shamel says, if y'all want help with practical magic stuff, holla at me on Discord. Make sure you check out Brother Shemel's Discord group. Fat Tony says, even a genius asks questions. Right, because there's stuff that you don't know, that I don't know, hell, Framestar Films asked me a question that I wasn't really too sure how to answer. And instead of giving him the precipitation of the fortification of the maxitude of the permissitude, hey man, try my best. Much love to you, J. Baltail. Pork Hill says Hadouken, Hadouken, fatality. Now they had Ryu on there a couple years back, but Sub-Zero and Scorpion, this is like new. It's a big deal. But yeah, it's that time. Late night Fortnite, maybe some Sims, and then my trip to the astral plane. Fat Tony, all is well. Peace, family. Zero says, thank you, Trev. Always appreciate you and your beautiful teachings. Love you so much. Love you too, Zero. And I hope that you really, really pull some great stuff out of that trip you had. Uh-oh. Script to screen and everything in between. If anyone needs a mentor, hit me up. Script to screen. If you're a particular channel of manifestation exists in the realm of film, hit up Framestar. You're talking to a international professional here, but I won't say too much. Internationally recognized. I don't know. We got some very influential maguses in this group. Sage Page says, what do you think about Lady Gaga Abracadabra video? I haven't seen it. I guess I'll check it out. I don't even know anything about it. Zero says, yes, I see your DM with the things I can pull out. I'll try that freehand writing and some other stuff I want to share with you. Okay. I will check my DMs. All right, you all. We'll be back next time. Next time. This concludes tonight's session. You've been perfect. If nobody told you that, I'm telling you right now. You have been perfect. Continue to do so. See you next time. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Peace.